Are you an international high-ticket closer trying to go from having literally zero sales experience to making serious income? We are talking about earning anywhere from $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, and even up to $39,000 in commissions within a single month. What you're about to watch is hands down the most valuable high-ticket sales training that you will find on YouTube. And I seriously mean that. In this full course, actually, I hate the sound of courses, so let's call it a full program. What you're going to learn is, number one, my exact sales approach. This is the approach that will take you from a 25% close rate to consistently closing at 45% to 50%, and some weeks even higher than that. Number two is how to spot and land legitimate earning opportunities where you can make $10,000 per month. We'll cover how to do that all while avoiding the companies that are just going to waste your time. And number three, I will talk about exactly what it takes to be a top 1% earning remote salesperson. But I do have to warn you about something. This won't be your typical quick 10-minute video with a few sales tips. You are probably going to need a notebook for this one. You will probably need to watch it a few times and actually implement the things that I talk about. This is everything that I wish I had when I started out, and I am giving it to you completely for free. Now, before anything else, what exactly is high-ticket sales? High-ticket sales goes by a few different names. You could call it remote sales, or you could call it remote closing. Essentially what it is that you are an online remote sales rep. You work from home and you are taking Zoom calls or phone calls to close deals for an online service-based business. Typically, each call is going to be anywhere from 30 minutes to 1 hour long. The price point of the product that you are selling could vary significantly. It could range anywhere from $2,000 all the way up to $100,000 that you will be closing with one singular call. Now, there are some nuances to this. Some offers require a 2-call close process because you're selling a product that's worth over $40,000. Now, there are so many different industries that you could do remote sales with. For example, there is e-learning, consulting, AI-based sales, the tech industry, B2B sales, and numerous other industries. One question I have gotten a lot from people over the past year is, do I think high-ticket sales will eventually die out or get replaced by AI? I honestly don't think that at all. I think sales will really be the last frontier of things that may get replaced by AI. But what I do know is that eventually the market of where you can make the most money with remote sales will start to shift. For example, over the past couple of years, the area where you could make the most money tended to be e-learning. This means selling some type of mentorship, course, or consulting program to B2C customers. What that is now shifting to is that you can make the most money with remote sales by doing B2B. This means you are selling an online service-based product to a business that is going to help them grow or scale their operations. Eventually, this is going to shift again. Maybe the hot market for you to sell in 5 years from now will probably have something to do with AI or tech. Now, some of the benefits of online remote sales are definitely the time freedom and the location freedom. This all comes within a degree, which I will explain right now, along with the financial freedom as well. You really don't have a cap on your income. Some of you probably have no idea what you want to do. The one thing that I knew was the lifestyle that I did not want to live. I knew I didn't want to do some type of in-person job. I knew I didn't want to be in the corporate industry. I knew that I wanted financial freedom, time freedom, or at least the ability to control my own schedule. And I wanted some type of location freedom because I knew what I did not want in life. It made it really easy to cross out the things that would not give me what I want. This was much easier than making a list of the things that could get me to my big vision and then starting to try them. Remote sales was one of those opportunities that fell into that bracket. But one thing I will preface with remote sales is that you have a degree of time freedom. I don't think any way of making money or any business model is completely hands-off, meaning you aren't just sipping piña coladas on the beach and raking in tons of money. There are levels you have to go through before you get to that point. But with remote sales, you do have time freedom in the degree where you control your own calendar. You can choose when to take calls and you can choose how often you work. But it is still something where, hey, if I want to earn $1,000 in commission on a $10,000 product, I have to put in the time. I have to give 45 minutes of my time and take a sales call. This leads to commission and pay structure. But commission structures can vary depending on the company that you work for. The most common commission structure that I see is 10% of cash collected. Meaning, if you are selling a product like Gym Launch, for example, that is $40,000, you earn 10% of that. Which means if you close a $40,000 offer, you will earn $4,000 in commission for that one call. But that can vary. Like I mentioned, I have seen companies give 15%, 20%, or sometimes somewhere between 7% and 12%. I have seen tech-based companies or different companies giving a very, very strong base salary plus commission on top of that. Now, as far as what I prefer, I would prefer to be commission only. The reason being is that it puts you in a position where your income is not capped. It can be scary for some people that you are strictly performance-based. But hey, that is sales at the end of the day. I know if I am at 10% or 15% commission, I could really run my income up to $30,000, $40,000, or $50,000 within a month. As long as I do well on my calls, the potential is there. Now, to really emphasize the best industries to sell in right now, I would say it comes down to two things. Number one is e-learning, and number two is B2B. Now, e-learning involves selling, like I mentioned, some type of course or mentorship, but it is an industry that is only growing. I have looked at the stats on this before, and it is expected to grow an extra 300% to 500% over the coming years. This makes it really easy to see how this is a great industry to get your start with remote sales. Now, number two is B2B. I actually enjoy B2B sales a lot more because you are dealing with people and prospects or businesses that already have money, meaning you hardly ever deal with disqualified prospects. And most times, as business owners, they are professional buyers. So they are there because they are looking to purchase the product that you are selling. As long as you are able to conduct a good sales call and pinpoint the problem that a business is going through, and then you pitch your product on how you are going to solve that problem. A lot of times, it is much easier to sell to people with money. They are much more willing to pull out their credit card at the end of the call. They'll say, hey, $15,000, that is no problem because I clearly see the value. And I see how this is going to help my business grow. Or as Alex Hormozi says, sell to rich people with money. So those are my two favorite industries. The third industry would be tech. I do think this is only going to boom in the future. And typically with tech, you can get a lot stronger base salaries rather than being commission only. Now, as far as realistic income potential for remote sales, I'm being a remote closer. I like to keep it very real with people. There is a very big gap on any given sales team. You will see a salesperson that is earning $30,000 or $40,000 within a month, sometimes a lot more. And then you will see the bottom salesperson who is earning anywhere from $8,000 to $12,000 per month. So I would say that is the most realistic gap. As long as you go to a good company, which I will show you guys how to find one throughout this video, you should be earning anywhere from $8,000 to $40,000 per month as you continue progressing. But hey, depending on the company, you could earn a hell of a lot more. I have seen remote sales guys earn $80,000, $90,000, or $100,000 all within a month, which is absolutely crazy to see because, for example, I have a lot of old friends of mine who went to college for 4 years just to land a $60,000 or $70,000 per year salary job. Now, if you get into remote sales and by month 6, if you know how to grind, you can be making $20,000 a month. Now that we wrap that up, let's dive into chapter 1, which is sales fundamentals. All right, now before we dive into the meat and potatoes of this free course, meaning the fundamentals of sales, the one-call close framework, and me breaking down every single section of a one-call close. I'll tell you what I would say, how I would say it, the questions I would ask, how I would pitch, how I would overcome objections, and much, much more. There is one thing that I want to cover first, and that is, what would a free course be without a mindset section? Now, bear with me. This will be a 60-second spiel of a couple of key fundamental sayings that I tell myself on a daily basis. These have served me for the past 7 or 8 years, along with dozens of other people that I have worked with. Now, the reason why I tell you this is because I have come to learn just in the past years of experience and with speaking to a lot of people that, there are a lot of people who view life as something that is difficult, and that doesn't serve them. And what that means is like maybe along this path of you getting to where you want to go or reaching that big vision in your head, there have been a lot of hurdles and a lot of things that hold you back. It makes you view the world or view life as, hey man, life is super hard. It is difficult. And I want to be the first to tell you that mindset will never serve you. A saying that I tell myself on a daily basis is that life is easy, so don't make it difficult. Now, will this completely change your life? It might, right? But what it does for me is give me a perspective shift. I would rather view every single situation and view my life as something that is going to be extremely easy to get to where I want to go, rather than waking up every morning and dreading the day because I feel like life is going to be difficult for me. And so it is a small thing, but I tell myself this every single day. I have it written on a piece of paper that I read. said. Life is easy, so don't make it difficult. And, to add on to that, I do believe there is some validity in the law of attraction, right? So why would I wake up every single morning and envision my life as something that is going to be extremely difficult and start attracting those things? Rather than thinking abundantly, I'm framing my mind, I'm framing the way that I look at every single situation as, hey, my life is going to be easy. I am going to figure it out and get what it is that I want. So life is easy, don't make it difficult. Now, the second thing is a simple saying that will probably get tattooed on my body at some point. And the reason why I say this is, listen, I have had ups and downs. I have made money. I have lost all of the money, then made it back again, then lost it again. And I always still, to this day, have this anxiety since I was young, that I am one step away from gaining everything that I ever wanted. But I am also one step away from losing everything that I have. And like I said, to this day, I still feel those feelings, and I am still faced with roadblocks or hurdles along the road that I feel like are holding me back from getting to where I want to go. And so this saying that I tell myself all the time is to fight back. That is the only response, to fight back. So if I am ever faced with a difficult situation, I have two things that I do. I frame my mind into thinking that life is easy, so don't make it difficult. And number two, the only response that I have is to fight back. Unfortunately, not all of life is in my control. And it is the same thing for you. So sometimes the only thing you can do when you are faced with those negative thoughts or those situations that you feel like are holding you back is to fight back. And so for reference, this video that I am making now is a version of myself fighting back. It is my way of fighting back to the thoughts of myself that, hey, maybe I won't become the person who I said I will be. Or damn, I feel so close to getting to where I want to go, but I also feel like I am one step away from losing it. And so the only thing I can do is to fight back. Now that we wrap that up, let's dive into the fundamentals of a sales call. And first, we will cover the anatomy of a sales call. Now, the way remote sales calls go typically are either one call closes or two call closes. And if you are questioning, Rafa, how do I know if an offer will be a one call close versus a two call close? I always break it down like this. The bigger the ask, the longer the runway. Meaning, the more expensive the product is that you are selling, the longer the sales process is. You will be surprised. Most products that are anywhere from $20,000 and below typically are one call closes. Anything above $20,000 typically will turn into two call closes. Each call is about 45 minutes long, or at least that is how long it will be booked into your calendar. And again, your job is to take the conversation from the point of a prospect saying, hey, this is something I am kind of interested in. I saw your guy's website. It looks interesting. All the way to the point at the end of minute 45 where he or she is handing you their credit card and saying, let's do this. I am ready to go. The cool thing about remote sales, from what I have seen and experienced over my past 5 years, is it is very different from other industries where you are dealing with very cold prospects. That doesn't mean that you are dealing with hot leads all the time that are ready to buy. But you are speaking with people who are at least somewhat interested in the product that you have to offer. Meaning, maybe they saw some type of advertisement, maybe they have a friend that bought your thing already, or they have been searching up online for help with a certain subject or situation, and they booked the call because they are about 30% willing to buy. This was very different compared to door, because I did do door for a little bit of time, where I was knocking on doors and speaking with people that had no idea who I am and literally could give two shits about what it is that I had to sell. By the way, I lasted in door for about 2 or 3 weeks. Now, once you are on a sales call, there are 3 types of buyers that you will deal with. Number 1 is a buyer in heat, who will be 20% of the prospects that you will deal with. Number 2 is a buyer in power. This will be about 60% of the prospects that you deal with. And then number 3 will be a tire kicker. And tire kickers cover about the last 20% of the prospects that you will speak with on a daily basis. So if you take 10 sales calls within a day, you could safely say that 2 of them will be buyers in heat, meaning people who are literally ready to buy. They booked the call with just a couple of questions. They wanted maybe just a payment plan or just to get some more clarity on a couple of things. As long as you don't mess up the call, they will pay you and you earn a fat commission at the end of the call. Then 6 out of the 10 prospects will be buyers in power. People who are half interested. They like the product that you offer. They kind of want to buy it, but they need the full sales call in order for them to be fully convinced that, hey, this is a right decision for for them at the end of minute 45. Now, the last 2 out of those 10 prospects will be tire kickers. And tire kickers are people who are literally there to waste your time. One of the most important skills that you could understand with taking your initial sales calls is how to identify the buyer that you are dealing with within the first 5 minutes. And the way I identify what type of buyer I am dealing with is by asking 2 things. Number 1 is, what was your motivation with booking the call? And number 2 is, what are you looking for help with when it comes to XYZ subject? So if I am selling a real estate offer, I will straightforwardly ask somebody, hey, so what are you looking for help with when it comes to real estate? And if somebody tells me, yeah, I am not really looking for help with anything, I was just checking it out, I saw your website, I will follow up with, okay, interesting. So, what are you doing? Are you just booking 45-minute calls with random people throughout your day? And that will be the prospect's chance to either correct themselves and be like, well, no, I am interested in getting into real estate. Or number 2, they will say, yeah, I was just checking it out, I just wanted some more information. And in that case, that lets me know that, okay, this guy is a tire kicker. And I will just follow up with, hey, listen, man, this isn't a call just to get more information. I could send you a flyer or a website to check it out. But once you decide that you are looking for help or real estate is something that is serious for you, go ahead and book another call. Here's my phone number. We could chat later. I'm not going to waste my time with a tire kicker because at the end of the day, it is a 45-minute conversation. In some ways, it is like playing chess in your head. And so you do expend a lot of energy with each call that you take. And so I only want to deal with people that are either buyers in heat or buyers in power. Now, my buyers in heat, usually what they will tell me is like, oh, listen, man, I am a big fan of your guys' company. I really want to do this. I just had a couple of questions to ask before I started marching forward. With buyers in heat, my job is to literally not screw up the call, get out of their way, and take payment. So if someone tells me that they just had a couple of questions and they are good to go, I would say, cool. So as long as I could answer your questions, is this something that you would be ready to move forward with today? And if they say, yeah, I just had a couple of questions, I answer those questions and say, cool, do you need a full breakdown? Are we ready to go? You will be surprised how many buyers in heat you get as long as you are on a good offer. I've had people literally come in and just say like, hey man, I am just trying to find out if I could get a payment plan. Now, buyers in power, these are 6 out of 10 of the people that you are dealing with. And they will say something when you ask them, hey, what are you looking for help with? What is the motivation for booking the call? They will say, yeah, listen, I have seen your guys' website. I was checking it out. I am kind of thinking about doing real estate, but I wanted to see if you guys could help. That is a good sign that they are right on the line, that they are looking for help. There is motivation behind the call, but they are not necessarily ready to buy yet. And with those people, it will take the full 45 minutes to go from the point of, hey, nice to meet you, to here is my credit card at the end of the call. Now, what I have learned and what I will touch on here in a bit is that most sales training is backwards. And what I mean by that is they provide you the fish, they provide you the scripts, but they don't actually teach you how to utilize the rod. And so what I want to show you here is the actual one call close framework that everybody needs to follow. In order to get to the point of having a half interested prospect to them agreeing to close a deal and move forward by the end of the call. Now, technically, there are 4 sections to a sales call. You have your intro, you have your discovery, your transition, and then your pitch. But if we really want to get to the nitty-gritty, there are 6 sections. Meaning what you are looking at here is number 1, intro and rapport. Number 2, setting frame or laying the agenda and the foundations of the call. Then we are moving to number 3, which is the discovery section of your sales call. Number 4 is transition. Number 5 is pitching. And then finally, we are at number 6, which is closing. Now, I am about to dive deep into this, so I will break down each section of the sales call. So starting off, you will start with your intro and rapport at number 1, and you will move down the line here. Now, pleasantries are the simple things. Hey, nice to meet you. How are you doing? How is the day going? Where are you from? And then we are moving on to, okay, cool. Well, we have about 30 to 45 minutes here. Do you mind if we jump into the purpose of the call? Now, here is a key. Keep the pleasantries short. I see a lot of people overdo it with, the pleasantries or the intro of the sales call. People do not care about, the dumb questions that you ask about how is the weather and so forth. Which, by the way, never ask somebody how is the weather where they are from. Your job is to hold the frame and authority of the conversation. And so the quicker you can move to the meat and potatoes of the conversation, the more frame and the more authority that you will hold with it. So whenever I am in the pleasantry section of a sales call, which is in the first 2 minutes, I only ask 3 questions. Nice to meet you. How's your day going? Where are you from? And the third question is, we have about 45 minutes here. Do you mind if we jump into the purpose of the call? From there, we move to technically number 2 of intro and rapport, which is any pre-call prep material that you have. Did you watch it? This also helps me identify the type of buyer that I am dealing with. And at the end of the day, what I will say is, let me explain this. A pre-call prep video typically is some type of video that a prospect is supposed to watch before the sales call. That way, it could warm them up to the idea of who you guys are, what you do, and the type of service that you provide. It essentially pre-pitches them on your offer. And pre-call videos are so important because it is what warms the prospect up to being able to spend $10,000 within a 45-minute conversation with somebody that they just met in the first place. Not only that, it gives them a visual representation of what they are buying. I mean, put it this way. Imagine you jump on a call, a sales call as a prospect, right? And you do a 30 to 45-minute conversation with somebody that you just met. They give you some type of verbal breakdown or pitch, and then they say, hey, it is $10,000. Are you ready to go? I know for me and many prospects that I have gone through this process with, they say, hey, Rafa, this sounds good, but I am just going based off your words, man. Look, like, do you have anything that you could show me or some type of visual representation of what I am buying? And this is why it is really important to make sure that your prospect watches the pre-call video before you really continue forward with the call. And so, as soon as I am done with pleasantries, I will always ask the prospect, hey, by the way, we sent you that one video where influencer X is wearing the suit and tie. He is kind of breaking down what we do here. Did you have a chance to see it? I want everybody to say yes, or else I'm going to reschedule the call. But if they do say no, because, hey, sometimes people don't have the time to sit there and watch a 20-minute long pre-call video, I will always fish around to see how much they know about the company and what we do here. If I have somebody that says, hey, no, I didn't watch the pre-call video, and I ask, okay, well, how much do you know about our team and what we do here? They say, I have no idea. And I say, okay, well, how much do you know about influencer X? And then they are like, well, I just found out about him yesterday. That is a great sign that they are not going to buy today. So why would I continue forward with the conversation? I would rather tell them, hey, no worries. I am glad you found out about influencer X today. I could answer a couple of questions that you have right now, but that pre-call video is super important because it is going to give you a visual representation of what we do here. Let's have you watch it first, and then let's speak in 30 minutes from now. That way we could have the full conversation. I have had salespeople tell me like, well, Rafa, what if they don't show up to the second call? Is it my job to just close them on the spot? No, it is not. Your job is to get a prospect to trust you enough to buy from you in the first place. And if you show that you actually care about your prospect, saying something like, hey, I want to make sure you have a full understanding of what we have going on here. I really want you to watch this video, and let's just chat 30 minutes from now or later today at 5 p.m. They will actually respect you more, and there will be a higher chance they show up to that call to buy because you showed that you actually cared. Now, moving on from the pre-call preparation video, I always pre-qualify red flags. This, for example, if you are dealing with a B2B business and you need to ask them, hey, by the way, are there any business partners that you have or anyone else that should be on the call? Or maybe you are dealing with somebody who is a stay-at-home mom and you are selling a fitness offer and you need to ask, hey, by the way, what does your husband think about you, possibly jumping into fitness? Should he be on the call? Or even things like, hey, there have been times where I am selling a product that is expensive as hell, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, and a guy jumps in, he looks messy, and he does not look qualified to buy the thing in the first place. So the last thing that I am going to do is wait till minute 45 when I say this is $20,000 and they tell me, God, I got $5 in my bank account. If I could pick up on that stuff in the first couple of minutes, I am just going to ask the question before I actually get past minute 5 or 10 within the call. Now, the way I do this is kind of funny and kind of tricky. If I feel like somebody is financially unqualified on a sales call, I will frame the questions I am about to ask as application questions before we march forward. And that is just so I don't look like a jerk. I will say something like, cool, so before we march forward, I have a couple of questions here that I want to ask. Let's say, for example, I am selling a real estate offer. I will be like, cool, so let me know really quick, I'll mark this down. Are you new to real estate? Do you have any properties? Okay. Number 2 is, I know I asked this, but just remind me, where exactly are you living so we understand the market that you're in? Okay. And then finally, number 3, by the way, as far as getting into real estate, it does cost some money to jump into. How much do you have set and saved to the side for getting into your first property if we find a good one tomorrow? You would be surprised how many guys tell me, oh, I have $0. Like, I heard that we could use other people's money, and so that is why I booked the call. Which technically you can, right? But a lot of people don't know with real estate, to use other people's money, you do need money in your bank account. To get a bank loan for $200,000, typically you will need at least $20,000 to $40,000 in your account and proof of income that you are making in the first place. Let alone if he tells me he has 0 in his bank account, he sure as hell can't buy a $10,000 product. So with that, I just caught it within the first 5 minutes of the conversation if he is unqualified, and I could kindly turn him away. Now, after pre-qualifying red flags, we move into setting frame and agenda of the call. You are laying the foundations of the conversation and telling the prospect what to expect. Now, this isn't as big of a deal as people think. I will tell you exactly what I say on the call. What I do want to stress is what you always want to do with a one-call close is let them know when you say the agenda that if they are a good fit, they will be buying and being onboarded today. And that is to lay the foundations within the first 5 minutes that if they are a good fit, I am going to make you an offer. And we will be moving forward and taking payment today. This is to prevent any of the things that people may say when you drop the price at minute 45 and they say, oh, I gotta pay today. Yes, you do. And so that is why I am telling you within the first 5 minutes, hey, if you are a good fit, I'll let you know. I'll answer questions that you have and we'll get you onboarded by the end of the call. Is that okay? Now, the way I always set frame, I've tried a couple of different things. I keep it very straightforward. And I just say, listen, just so you know the purpose of the call. I am going to ask a couple of questions just to see if you are a good fit coming into this, but also make sure that we are a good fit for you, right? So if this is something that, I feel like we could help you with, I will be the first to tell you. I will let you know. I'll answer questions that you have. And then as long as you're ready to rock, we'll get you onboarded by the end of the call. Is that okay? Super simple, straightforward. You don't need any fancy stuff with setting frame. It is really just to take control of the conversation, letting them know, hey, I have done this hundreds of times already, and here is what to expect. If you are a good fit, you are buying today. Now, after setting frame, we have discovery. I will dive deeper into this later on in the video because this is the most important part of your sales call. Deals get closed in discovery by asking good questions. And so I want to break down my full discovery process. But just so you understand, the discovery portion of the call is where you are asking questions to the prospect to find their problems, their pain points, what they have tried, and if this is something that your team could help them with. One key thing I will say with discovery is that you want to ask more questions and say less statements. You will be surprised. Prospects do not care about all those relatable statements that you try and give where they say, hey, my goal is $10,000 a month. And you say, awesome. Every, person that comes in here has a $10,000 per month goal, and everyone is able to accomplish it within 4 months. How soon do you want to accomplish it? And they do not care. You want to stick to questions only, and reason being, you are able to dig a lot deeper into the prospect in the conversation by sticking with only questions. And your questions hit so much harder. The reason why people give so many statements most times is because they are afraid of silence, and they don't realize it. And so giving statements in between questions is their way of saying a bunch of blabber while they think about the next thing that they are going to ask. And you don't need it. Put it this way. If someone says, $10,000 per month is my goal, it hits so much harder for me to say, okay, if you don't mind me asking, why $10,000 a month? Because you put thought into your question and put a pause and said it with intent, they will put intent into their answer. Versus if you give some long-winded statement just to follow up with, how long has $10,000 per month been your goal? Most times they will give you a half-assed answer. And that is because if you attach fluff to your questions, you will get fluff answers. Be short, concise, straight to the point, and put thought behind the things that you are saying. Again, that is one of my favorite terminologies that I tell everybody that I work with. Hey, if you attach fluff to your questions, you will get fluff answers. If you want to cut deep, be straightforward, be straight to the point, and don't be afraid to take a second and think before you say something. You guys understand the point. But discovery, less statements, statements, more questions. Now, after discovery, and once again, I will dive into each section of the discovery portion here in a couple of minutes. You move on to number 4, which is transition. Now, all transition is you transitioning out of question asking time, aka discovery, and going into your pitch, where you are about to give a long-winded statement on how you could help the prospect solve XYZ problem. Now, the way I always do my transition is a couple of things. I just say, hey, I don't really have too many other questions, Mr. Prospect. Is there anything else that I missed from the past couple of minutes that you wanted to mention? They almost always say no. And then I transition into my transition questions. And that is laying the foundations that you will close the prospect today. One of my favorite questions that I ask everybody on sales calls is, hey, Mr. Prospect, by the way, we could definitely help you as long as we could get you to XYZ goal and solve X problem that you just told me you had. Would you be ready to move forward with our team today? As long as you do a good job in the discovery portion of your call, they will almost always say yes. And the reason why this is important is I do think human beings are more good than bad. And people want to stick to the word that they gave you. And so throughout the entire call, I am peppering in pre-handling objections and closing questions. That way, I could get the prospect to give me their word that no, I don't need a business partner. Yes, as long as it is a good fit, we can get onboarded today. Or me asking, hey, if we could help you with this and solve this problem, would you be ready to move forward today? And they say, yeah, if you could, get me to XYZ goal and solve this problem, I would be ready to move forward today. Now, other closing questions that I ask are timing, partner, and commitment pre-handles. And I would consider these closing questions as well. So that is asking something like, okay, cool, I am glad you would be ready to move forward. By the way, how much time do you have to dedicate towards real estate on a weekly basis? And they say, well, I got about 10 to 20 hours a week. And then I would follow up with, okay, cool, we would only need about 6 to 8 hours. So is that doable for you? And get the prospect to say yes. Now, one thing I will never do is give the prospect an amount of time or money that they need. And instead, I am just going to ask. Meaning, I will never ask the prospect, hey, so by the way, you need 6 to 8 hours per week in order to do this. Do you have that time? Because all you are doing is lining yourself up for a no. What I would rather do is ask the prospect, hey, how much time do you have to dedicate towards real estate? Or how much money do you have set aside in order to get into your first property? That way, whether they say $100,000 or $20,000, I could follow up with, okay, cool. Well, all you would really need is about $7 to $8,000. So is that doable for you? Last thing I would want to say is, hey, by the way, Mr. Prospect, for real estate, it does cost money. Do you have $8,000 set and saved to the side? Then they say, no, I don't. And then we screw up the whole, direction of the sales call. Now, that was explaining timing and finances. But other questions I will ask are commitment-based closing questions in my transition. I will say something like, okay, beautiful. By the way, Mr. Prospect, I am sure you have seen, let's say you go to the gym and hire a personal trainer. They could create you a meal plan and tell you exactly what to do at the gym, but you still need to show up and do it. Is this something you are committed to? That way you could get to XYZ goal and solve X problem. Again, I am peppering in a question to tell me that yes, I am committed. I would rather pre-handle and squash that now rather than get to the end of the sales call when I pitch the product and say, well, Rafa, 8,000 is kind of a lot, and I don't really know if I want to do real estate like that. Again, most people are good rather than bad. So if you get them to give their own word throughout the entirety of a sales call, then by the end of the call, you are going to have such an easier time closing the deal. Now, partner is just reiterating, hey, by the way, is there anybody else that needs to be here on the call in order for you to make a decision? I would rather hear them say, oh yeah, by the way, I do need somebody on the call before I pitch the price and pitch the product, rather than hear it at the end when I am like, so you ready to go? Do you have your credit card in hand? And they tell me, oh yeah, actually, I have a business partner and I got to speak with him. So those are my big closing questions that I ask. Commitment, time, finances, and partner. Now, the last question that I will pepper in with transition is a yes, no, or maybe frame. This has helped me a lot. In fact, you guys have probably seen videos where I have literally dozens of salespeople that tell me implementing this one question has helped them close so many more deals, which is crazy to see that one question could change the tide of things. things. I know it did for me, but that is the yes, no, or maybe frame. I use this pretty often on B2C based calls because one objection you deal with a lot is fear. Meaning, even though you had a great 10 out of 10 call and you drop the price because it is a B2C call, you will still have a lot of people that say, man, 10,000 is just a lot. I have never done this before and I am just afraid. And so whenever I feel like I have a prospect where the objection is going to be fear based off what they say in discovery, I will say the yes, no, or maybe frame. And the way that works is directly before I pitch, I will say this. Cool. So we could definitely help you solve X problem and solve X goal. Do you mind if I break that down for you? That is called permission to proceed. Once they say, yes, of course, Rafa, go ahead and break everything down. That is when I will use the yes, no, or maybe frame it. And I will pretty much say, beautiful. And by the way, before I break everything down, Mr. Prospect, I know at the end of the call, there is really one of three things you could say. Either Rafa, hell yes, let's do this, or no, which I want you to know, I am 100% okay with no. We are both grown adults here. The one I do want to avoid is like the in-between answers, the maybes, or let me talk to my dog about it, let me talk to my neighbor, just because we both know that is usually a nice way of saying no. So is it okay to keep it between a yes or no answer? As long as you frame the question correctly and use the right tonality, almost like careless, like, hey, by the way, I know you could say, maybe. Let's avoid the in-between answers because we are both adults. Is it okay to keep it between the first two? I have never had somebody that has really said like, no, I can't keep it between a yes or no. So sometimes one thing to take away from sales calls is it is not always about what you say. It is about how you say it. And this has helped me so much because I have had so many people on B2C calls get to the end and say, Rafa, usually I am the type that wants to think about things, but this feels right. I like what you're saying. I mean, I do like what you guys have going on, so screw it. Let's do it. So it is pretty funny to see, right? If you don't want to hear a maybe or I need to think about it, how about you just tell the prospect that you don't want to hear that? And then kindly ask them, could we keep it between a yes or a no? And hey, if they say, the 1 out of 10 people, actually, I am going to have to think about it, regardless of what you say. It is like, cool, thanks for telling me before I pitch and drop price. Let's pre-handle this objection real quick. And then if you agree to give me a yes or a no, I will go ahead and pitch you and tell you the price point. Because again, then you are coming from a place of care, right? Rather than a place of objection handling after you tell them the price. And they say, I need to think about it. And we are fighting to get the sale. Instead, we haven't even pitched or dropped price yet. So if they say that, we could be like, okay, well, let me know. Is that the way you always make decisions? What would make you want to, take some time and think about it? What does that look like? That way, we could pre-handle that objection before we pitch the thing and try and close. Now, transition is actually quite simple, but I dove pretty deep into that. Number 5 is you are moving into pitching. Now, pitching, I always use the PFS framework. Somebody told me I should trademark that the other day, but PFS meaning problem, feature, solution. Each pillar follows the PFS framework, right? And the way it goes is something like this. For each pillar of the pitch, there is actually science into why you should pitch in groups of 3 rather than groups of 2 or 4 or 5. Humans' brains have a lot easier time understanding and comprehending things in groups of 3. So never do a 4-pillar pitch, never a 5, never a 2, never a 1. Always keep it in 3 pillars. And then utilize the PFS framework. So for each pillar, you're going to list out the problem that the prospect is facing. Then you will list out the feature that your product provides. And then you will tell them the solution that will bring to them. And you do that for each pillar. So if I am selling I have been using real estate a lot for this example, but let's say like a B2B lead gen package. And I found out during discovery that, hey, one of the problems that the prospect is facing is that they keep getting unqualified leads. One of the pillars that I will utilize in my pitch is say, hey, Mr. Prospect, do you remember how you told me you keep getting unqualified leads? And they will say, yeah, I do. Then I will follow up with, cool. So the feature that we are going to provide is XYZ. We will run the ads for you. We will pre-qualify them. We will make sure they are qualified. And whatever it is, you list out that feature. And then what I will say is the solution that we will provide to you is that you will never deal with unqualified leads again. And obviously I riffed that a little bit, but PFS, here's the problem you're facing. Here's the feature that we have, and here's a solution that it will provide for you. Does that make sense? Cool. Did you have any questions on that? Cool. Now let's move to pillar number 2. Do you remember how you told me you were facing XYZ problem? Here's the feature that we have, and here is the solution it will provide. Now, during the pitch, always do temp checks after each pillar. And that is to help with pacing so you are not speed running through it. That way, you can make sure the prospect understands what you are saying and that they agree with what you are saying. And so, after each pillar, I always say the same thing. Does that make sense? Cool. Do you feel like that will help you? Okay, cool. Now, let's move on to the next pillar. Then I will pitch that pillar and follow up with the same thing. Does that make sense? Cool. Did you have questions on that? Do you feel like that will help you? Then move on to the next piece. Now, after pitching, you go into closing. And I can make an entire video on closing alone. Now, with closing that, the process is really simple. And what I will tell you is that this is where most salespeople lose deals is after pitching and when they start asking for money. And reason being, from what I have seen, is pacing, right? You go through this entire 30 to 45 minute call. I would say pacing and discovery, but you go through this entire 30 to 45 minute call. And now it is the time to ask money, and they start getting sales and commission breath and speeding up the conversation and getting really quick into asking money. And you don't want to do that. You want to have really good pacing when it comes to the close. Side note, there is science behind this as well. People trust people a lot more that speak slower and more coherently. So the way this works is after your third pillar pitch and you say, does that make sense? Cool. Do you feel like that will help you? And they say, yeah, 100%. You end your pitch and you say, cool, that covers everything. First, did you have any questions on that? So the first step that you are going to do is, do you have any questions on that? You are going to exhaust all questions. What that means is you want to get to the point where the prospect says, no, Rafa, you covered everything. I literally have 0 questions. And that is because we don't want questions to come up after you price drop. It ruins the momentum of the close. It takes the prospect away from the straight line of the sale. So the last thing I want is to say, this is $10,000. And then they say, oh, okay, cool. What? Wait, I still have questions. How does this work? How does that work? Could you show me this? Could you show me that? Could you show me A? Could you show me B? And it just pulls them away from buying and taking payment in the first place. After you drop price, you want to move swiftly, not quickly. Meaning you want to move swiftly into, cool, next steps are simple. Let's get you logged in. Is that okay with you? And so step 1 after pitching is to exhaust all questions. There are a couple side notes with exhausting all questions, which number 1, keep your answers short, sweet, and straight to the point. This is so important. Don't talk yourself out of the sale and don't create more questions because you are giving long-winded answers. And so what I mean by that is if somebody says, yeah, Rafa, actually I do have a question. How quick will it take me to scale my business to 100,000 per month? The last thing I am going to say is like, well, you know, it could take 6 months, it could take 8 months. We had someone that did it in 3 months, but for you, Mr. Prospect, I think it will only take you 4. What do you think they will follow up with? Well, what is the difference between the 6-month guy and the 8-month guy? How come the 3-month guy was able to do it so fast? Why do you think I could do it in 4 months? The next thing you know, you are walking backwards and taking yourself away from the straight line of the sale. Instead, if somebody says, hey, how long will it take me to get to 100,000 a month? I am not going to lie, but I am going to give a very straightforward, short-winded answer. I am going to say, hey, Mr. Prospect, based off where you are at with everything within the next 3 months. Does that make sense? Cool. Did that answer your question? Awesome. What next? What other questions do you have? And I will keep repeating that process till they literally tell me I have no other questions. Maybe they will follow up with, how does the coaching work? Or how does the training work? And again, I will give a short-winded answer. Yeah, so we meet with you 3 times per week. Does that make sense? Okay, did that answer your question? Cool. What other questions do you have? Once they finally tell me, yeah, Rafa, I don't have any other questions, I am going to move towards alignment. Now, alignment is super, super important, you guys. This is a piece that a lot of people miss. You need to get alignment that the prospect sees value in your product or service. And the reason why we do this is 2 reasons. It is to slow the pace down again before we ask for money. But number 2 is to remind the prospect why they are on the call in the first place. Okay? It is easy. You will be surprised how easy it is for a prospect prospect to forget that they are buying this to solve a problem and reach the goal once you tell them something is $20,000. So what I'm going to do before I drop price is remind them on why they are on the call in the first place and make sure they are aligned that what we have here will get them to where they want to go. So let's slow this down a little bit and let's break it down like this, okay? What you do not want to do when you get alignment is ask fluff questions like, hey, so really quick, did everything we touch on make sense? I do not care if it made sense to you. So I'm not going to ask that. I am also not going to ask, hey, so really quick before we dive in, do you feel like everything we have could help you? I don't care if it will help you. And that is not straightforward enough. So I am not going to ask that. What I will ask is, hey, Mr. Prospect, by the way, I know you told me you want to get your business to 100,000 per month. You want to do that within 4 months. And the problem that you are facing is XYZ. Do you feel like everything we touched on today could solve that and get you there? I am going to ask it straightforward. Let's bring up the prospect's goal and let's bring up the problem that they are facing and then ask, hey, everything that I just broke down, do you feel like it will help you reach that goal and solve that problem? Alignment. When you do it straightforward. Again, I will never ask a prospect, hey, so do you feel like everything that we touched on will help you? That is not alignment. Remind them why they are here in the first place. And this is why it is important to have a good discovery. That way, you are clear and coherent on what it is that the person is looking for. So alignment, be straightforward. And whenever you do alignment, always bring up their goal and bring up the problem that you are facing. And then ask if they feel like what we have today could solve that. Now, after alignment, we are going into price drop. So one thing I will say with price drop is you may have heard a lot of people that say, just drop the price and then shut up. I agree with that to a degree. But what I do when I price drop, I will never, let's say I do alignment with somebody and I say, hey, so do you feel like this will get you to XYZ goal and solve X problem? And they say, yeah, Rafa, I do. What I am not going to do is be like, awesome. So for everything, it is $10,000. I feel like it just creates awkwardness and it never worked that well for me. So what I always do when I price drop is I value stack what we have to offer and then drop the price and sit in silence. So here's the difference. With one side, somebody says, yes, Rafa, I do feel like this will get me to where I want to go. And then I say, cool, it is $10,000. That is what I don't do. On the other side, and what I do is I say, cool. So for everything that we touched on to get you to the point of making 100,000 per month, doing it over the next 3 months, the coaching, the training, us running our ads for you, meeting with you every single week, it will be $10,000. It makes it more digestible. It makes it less awkward in my opinion. And I have closed way more deals by dropping the price like this. So try it for yourself. If you ever are on a sales call and you are the type to just drop the price and shut up, try value stacking on top of the price first. It makes it a lot more digestible and it reminds them everything that they are getting. It makes the $10,000 or $20,000 price of what you have cut them a lot less deep. Now I am going to rewind for 1 second because this is really important with alignment. The important piece of alignment is that we actually need them aligned, meaning I am not looking for half-assed answers. If I ask a prospect, hey, do you feel like this could get you to XYZ goal and solve X problem? And they say, I think so. That is not alignment. I need a hell yes. Or else that is just an objection that is hiding before you drop the price. So I would rather deal with that now rather than deal with it when the price drop comes. So if I go for alignment and somebody says, I think it will help, I would say like, okay, well, what sticks out to you? What do you feel like will help? I am looking for them to sell themselves on the product. If I could tell they are not truly aligned, I am just going to say, hey man, I am not buying it. It seems like something is a little off. So do you mind explaining like where you are at with things? People actually respect you a lot more for that. And it gives you a chance to re-explain whatever is not clicking in their head. Maybe they just misunderstood a piece of your pitch. So they say, I don't know, I was a little bit, yeah, I think so. At least I am going to give them the chance to re-ask a question or give me the chance to re-explain something they misunderstood by saying, hey, you don't sound very aligned. I am not really buying it. So let me know what is coming up for you. Do you have any concerns? Again, I would rather deal with that now than once the price drops. So when you seek alignment, we are looking for a hell yes. We are looking for that, yeah, Rafa, I do feel like it will get me there. So I wanted to cover that really quick because this is important with alignment. We need straightforward answers. And this is why it is important on sales calls to be intuitive, be present, be in the moment so that you could pick up on these things when you are speaking with the prospects. Now, to get back to this, after price drop, I always assume the close. And this is usually if any objections will come up. This is where they will come up, right? But one thing I have learned, if you do all of this correctly, good closers do not get objections. They only get questions. And maybe I should make this a little bit more polite here, but assume the close is what I call it. And so after I price drop, after I value stack the price drop and end it with cool. So for everything included to get you to X goal for A, for B, for C, for D, for E, it will be $10,000. And I sit in silence for a second. If they don't say anything, I'm not going to say, cool, so are you ready to get started? I'm just going to say, sweet. So next steps are simple. Let's get you logged in. We will get you set up with everything and you will be meeting with the team tomorrow. Is that okay? Push the pace forward. Push the conversation forward. If they have an objection, this is where they will come up and say something like, whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah, I think I am going to need to think about it. Now, I do have an objection handling video. I am not going to dive too deep into objection handling right now. But the whole point is, after you price drop, always assume the close. I just move forward with awesome. Next steps are simple. Let's get you logged in. Let's get you ready to rock. Is that okay with you? And I will get either a yes or I will get the objection right there at that point. And you guys could see with this process, you have squashed every single bug after you price drop. It is either a yes or a no. That is all they could say. They shouldn't have questions. They should have told you already, hey, this is something that I want to do because we asked those closing questions. And they also should have told you, yes, I feel like everything that you told me today will get me to where I want to go and solve my problems. And so this is why it is important to have proper structure and pacing once you are actually closing somebody. Because after I drop the price, I either want to hear, okay, cool, let's do it. And then I log them in and take payment. Or I want to hear I need to think about it. And then I am going to say, cool, let's handle this objection real quick. And then follow up with, awesome. Next steps are simple. Let's get you logged in. So that is the one call close structure. Hopefully this was helpful for you. Now, the next piece that I will talk about is how to get ready before your sales calls. I am going to share a couple life hacks with you guys that have helped me to get in the right mindset before I start my sales calls for the day. And this is extremely important because mindset is everything when it comes to sales. You could have the most perfect script in the world, the most perfect objection handling frameworks. But if you don't show up locked in, ready to have a conversation, present, and caring, you are just not going to do well. It doesn't matter who trained you or what frameworks that you have. And another important key piece with this is confidence. 60% to 70% of you selling and closing deals is all based off the confidence that you have on the call. Like all sales is just transferring belief from one person to another. And you do that with how you speak, how you present yourself, how you show up, the tonality behind your questions, the tonality behind your statements. When you tell them during transition, hey, we could definitely help you, I would love to break that down for you. It hits so much harder if you have that conviction and that confidence in yourself. People could smell it from a mile away. If you're on a call, stuttering, shaking, not paying attention, looking around, you are going to lose the sale within the first 5 minutes of the call. Now, what I do to get in the right mindset before my sales calls, I will cover a couple of really important things right now. So stick around for this whole section. But you know what I will say is, it is hard to have confidence on a sales call if you don't have confidence in yourself outside of sales. In other words, you can't lead other people to make a decision if you can't even lead yourself. And I have said this a couple times before, and you have probably heard this. Honestly, the best salespeople that I know are also just genuinely very dialed human beings with sales as a whole. And so what I am trying to get you to realize with this is sales is just leadership. You are leading somebody to make a decision that they already want to make. And in order for them to buy, they need to see you as an authority and they need to see you as a leader. In order for people to perceive you that way, you need to be good at leading yourself outside of sales. You can't fake it. And so a whole baseline, an umbrella of how I could tell you to be in the right mindset on a daily basis is to stay true to your own word. An exercise that, I could have you do, I have everybody do this when they come into the group is, hey, take Take 5 minutes and answer this question prompt. List the things that you should be doing on a daily basis that will help you grow 1% every single day as a human being. Now, this isn't your chance to create a bunch of random junk that you should be doing, like, oh, I should probably start tidying up my wardrobe. It is just, hey, let's figure out what is in your head. You have a list of things that you have been telling yourself you are going to do, but you are not doing it. Let's write it down and schedule it into your calendar and construct your perfect day. For some people, it is like, hey, for me to become 1% better every day, I should probably be going to the gym, and I haven't been doing that. Or I know for me, I could speak in my example. It is. I need to be more regimented with my eating. I need to meal prep. I need to eat at the right times. I need to eat the right things, or maybe for you, it is like, hey, I should read that book that I promised myself I am going to read the past 2 years. So do that exercise for yourself. That way you could find out and lead yourself correctly outside of sales calls. Now, as far as my day-to-day regimen to show up fully prepared on sales calls, I do a couple of things. Number one is I always start my day with morning cardio. And for the people that are giving an objection to that, like, oh, I get tired when I work out in the mornings. I used to be the exact same. I used to hate working out in the mornings because I felt like it made me lazy and unproductive because I would be tired. It took me some time to realize that it was actually because I wasn't hydrating properly and eating right after I worked out. And that was the reason why I was tired. Like, hey, if I work out for an hour in the morning and then don't eat till 2 p.m., like, of course I'm going to be tired. Or if I don't hydrate correctly after the gym, of course I will be tired. So now that I fixed that, morning cardio has been the number one thing that gives me a clear head. And that was because I used to get a lot of brain fog, meaning I almost didn't feel very present, or I felt foggy. I didn't feel sharp. And so morning cardio solved that problem. Now, the last thing I do before I start my day of sales calls is 2 things. Number one is I will do a 5-minute meditation. I just literally go on YouTube or download a meditation app and do it for 5 to 10 minutes. And that is to clear my mind of all the other stuff that I have going on outside of sales. Because I know when I jump on the sales call, I am going to need to be locked in and present and paying attention. So doing a 5-minute guided meditation, I am not going to break down an entire meditation for you because that is not what this video is about. But you could Google them. You could download an app, and that has helped me tremendously with going in clear-headed, locked in, and paying attention to the prospect. And this is my way of letting my brain and body know that it is time to lock in because I am about to take a sales call. Now, moving on from the actions that I do before a sales call is, what do I actually wear on sales calls? Well, you are kind of looking at it. 99% of the time, I am wearing a plain black long sleeve or a plain black polo, and that is about it. Now, what I will tell you is that you want to match the avatar of the prospects that you are speaking with on a daily basis. And that is so that you could build subtle rapport with the people that you are selling to every single day. For example, if you are selling to tech founders, most of them are wearing polos or button-ups. It will probably help you as a salesperson to match their style and wear some type of polo or button-up. Versus if you are selling a fitness offer and you are dealing with a lot of people that are just wearing gym gear on a daily basis. Hey, that is a good sign that you could wear a Nike dry fit shirt or plain black long sleeve and be on the same level as the prospects that you are dealing with. One thing I will say is, don't be messy with your looks. There is such a thing as a low-quality salesperson. And good sales teams want to hire high-quality salespeople. People that they could see clearly, that have a good camera, that have good audio, that maybe have some type of background behind them. And so do your best to turn yourself into a high-quality salesperson. Because guess what? As much as people do judge you based off the things that they say, the immediate thing that they will judge you is how you show up and present yourself on any meeting. Now, if you do a remote sales and you just do it over phone calls, then lucky you. There are a lot of companies that don't require you to be on Zoom, and they are closing 20, 30, 40K deals over phone calls. But there are many, and I would say more opportunities are transitioning to being Zoom calls rather than phone call closes. And so how you present yourself is extremely important. Hey, if you don't have a nice background, that is okay. And it took me over a year to finally kind of move out, get my thing, get my own office. And so I would just take it in front of a plain wall with really good lighting, really good camera quality, and a really good microphone. And then on top of that, I would show up presentable. That way, the only thing they could judge is how I speak and how I showed up to the call rather than what my background looks like. So if you are somebody that is taking calls out of your room, guess what? Don't have your bed or your disheveled background or dirty looking room be your background, right? Instead, do it in front of a blank wall until you get to the point where you could add a plant or a bookshelf and make it look a bit nicer and a bit more professional. So again, that is extremely important, you guys. You really do need good audio, you need good camera quality, and you need to look presentable on your sales calls. And I do this on accident, right? I have interviewed so many salespeople when I was researching sales teams that show up with like a horrible camera, horrible background. I can't really see them clearly. And right away, I am like, oh man, I am not hiring this guy. So be a high quality salesperson. Now, one thing I am going to add really quick is that this is a very important thing for me that I do every single day when I am doing sales calls. Is I watch a call recording of a great sales call that I had. I remind myself of my baseline. This is a life hack for me and even myself. If I take the weekend off, my first, second, third call are usually a little bit cold and shaky because I took the past 2 or 3 days off. And so a way I mitigate that is by always understanding my baseline. Whenever I have a really good sales call, I download the call, I add it to a Google Drive, and I will watch those calls pretty consistently. And so if you want an actual framework for it, it is just, hey, in the morning while you are working out or going on a walk, watch one of your really good sales calls where you close the deal. Remind yourself of your baseline. Remind yourself of what good tonality looks like, of what good questions look like, of good objection handling. And so Monday through Friday, I will usually start off my morning, not only by doing my workout and my cardio and my water and so forth, but I will also watch at least the first 20 or 30 minutes of a really great sales call that I had. And a side note, I will add with this, for anybody who is actually closing right now, you could comment below. I would actually appreciate it. Like, how many of you guys have applied to roles where they are asking for call recordings now? Because the space is starting to grow. So many more sales teams have recognized that there are people that are lying on their resume. So one of the first things they will ask is like, hey, send me a call recording of you closing a deal. And so you want to save the assets that you have. I made that mistake at my first offer where I didn't know it was a good idea to save call recordings. And now I am looking at it today like, damn, I should have, saved a ton of call recordings of even just me setting and me closing. And luckily I have a few. But for you, save your assets just in case you ever want to transition to a bigger, better opportunity. Or, hey, make sure you watch one of the call recordings every single day so you understand your baseline of what a good call looks like from you. With that as well, before taking any sales calls, it is extremely important to know not only what you are selling, but the client journey that your prospect goes through. Whenever I help people land a role, the first thing I have them do is go through the entire funnel, the website, and everything needed to understand the client journey. I will tell them to start at the top, watch the advertisement that gauges interest, go to the landing page that advertisement takes them to, watch the video, read the page. Then go ahead and book a test call, and then watch any pre-call preparation material that you are receiving before prospects get on the call with you. And that is so you understand the ins and outs of the client journey. How are they showing up to the conversation? What are they expecting before you speak with them? What this will also do is help you understand your offer. You can't expect to sell something if you don't have a full understanding of how you help people. And so make sure you understand the client journey, number one. And number two, if you land a brand new sales role, make sure you watch call recordings of other sales reps pitching, because you want to understand two things. Number one is, what is the client expecting and how are they perceiving the product that you are selling? But number two is how other salespeople are explaining and pitching the product on a live call. I will break down my onboarding process in a bit, meaning, hey, if you land a new sales role, this is exactly what you need to do to go from the place of I am brand new and just accepted the offer to I am taking my first sales call within 3 days. You will see that later on in the video. But an easy breakdown that I will tell you is, I heard this from Kobe Bryant. Kobe said that whenever he goes into a game, he just wants to go in wholeheartedly understanding that he has done everything he can in his power to prepare. And now he is leaving it up to God or chance or whatever it is. And that is the same mindset you want to have whenever you start a new sales role or whenever you start a new day of sales calls. You want to be able to sit down and look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, I have done everything that I can to prepare, and now it is just time to execute. Now, different ways to practice and get better at sales is also extremely important. And really, I have broken it down into 3 things. You could do mock calls or role plays. You could do call reviews, meaning somebody else either reviews your call or you could review your own call. Or number 3 is you could watch other salespeople's calls. All 3 are equally important. Now, after taking your sales calls, an important key element that not enough people talk about is how to actually practice and get better on a daily basis. Now, I am breaking down how to practice in 3 sections. Number 1 is to find a mentor who has been there or done that. This doesn't have to be something that you pay for. I mean, it is as simple as finding somebody at the company that you are working with. Hopefully, you are at a place that wants to cultivate you, where maybe sales managers or the CEO or someone that has been there and done that wants to see you do well and is willing to mentor you. And of course, like, hey, you could go into different sales training programs that is there to help you get better with sales. Just make sure you go to the right place and pick somebody that you trust. Now, I would say that is the number 1 way to improve, but other ways you can improve is number 2, doing mock calls, or number 3, watching call recordings. Now, when it comes to mock calls, there is a game that I like to play. It is called Columbos. I will explain it really quick. It is the most helpful sales game or mock call training that I have ever done. It is really the only exercise that I will do that has helped me progress a lot with sales. And the way it works, let's say there is a group of 4 people on a call, and let's say they pick me to be the salesperson on the mock call. What I will do is have the sales manager put me in the waiting room as the salesperson. And then what the sales manager will do with the 2 or 3 other people inside of the Zoom call is create an avatar for the prospect that I am speaking with. On top of that, they will decide on who the prospect is or who the person that I will be training with on this mock call. So while I am in the waiting room, I know nothing other than I am coming into a call and I am about to do a mock call. So again, the sales manager and the other people inside the meeting will create a prospect, an avatar. Let's say, for example, I am selling something like real estate. Maybe what they will do inside of the meeting while I am in the waiting room is create somebody that is 30 years old. They are an engineer. They are making $200,000 per year. They are brand new into real estate. They are looking to get their first property. This is why it is important to them. This is the goal that they have. This is what they are struggling with. Maybe they bought something in the past that didn't work out for them, or they tried to buy a property in the past and lost a bunch of money with it, and bullet point all of that different information on the prospect. My job once they bring me back from the waiting room is to do a 6-minute scriptless discovery only, where my job as a salesperson is to sit there and ask questions to uncover all of that information of the prospect that we created. So I will start it like any normal sales call. Hey, what was motivation for yourself for booking the call? Cool. What are you looking for help with when it comes to real estate? Okay, awesome. So it sounds like this is something new to you, correct? Cool. What do you do for work, by the way? Oh, you are an engineer. What has you wanting to do real estate? And so my job is to do a scriptless discovery by only asking questions to uncover all of the information in the bullet points of what we created on that prospect. And this is helpful because, like I mentioned, it teaches you how to have a scriptless discovery and it teaches you active listening. That way you don't rely so much on the script that you have in front of you, and instead you could listen to what the prospect is saying and follow up with good questions that uncovers all the info you need. Now, the thing with this is you do need somebody to lead the meeting who knows what they are talking about with sales. That way, at the end of the 6 minutes, they could stop the call and say, cool, awesome. Now, Rafa, how do you feel like you did as a salesperson? Mr. Prospect or fake prospect, right? How do you feel like he did as a salesperson? Then start going over all the information and tell you, hey, this is what you could have done better with the conversation. It is a game that I love to play, a sales game. That will be extremely helpful for you. After sales games, you have number 3, which is watching call recordings. Now, what is the most helpful for me is actually watching call recordings of salespeople on a sales team who are doing better than me. A lot of times, if I watch my own call recordings of deals that I do not close, it is very hard for me to really understand what I could have done better, because if I understood it, I would have closed a deal. And so if you are watching your own call recordings, it is helpful to watch the really good calls. That way you understand your baseline. But when it comes to the bad calls, it is better to have somebody who has been there, done that you respect, that knows their stuff with sales, to watch those recordings with you. That way they could let you know, hey, this is exactly why you didn't close a deal. This is what we need to say instead. Okay, cool. Let's practice it really quick. Implement it tomorrow and let me know how the next call goes. Now, if I have nobody to review my own calls, I will try and find somebody first and foremost. But number 2 is I will watch call recordings of other salespeople on the team that are doing really well. So again, those are my 3 ways of practicing. Number 1 is to find a mentor. Number 2 is is mock calls, and more specifically, Columbos. And then finally, number 3 is watching call recordings. Again, with watching call recordings, it is more helpful if you have somebody who has been there, done that. Watching your calls versus watching your own and trying to construct what went wrong. And if you are going to watch call recordings, watch some of the rep who is crushing it on your team. Now, this leads perfect, especially with talking on Columbos scriptless selling. What is it? Why does everybody talk about it? It sounds like this crazy enigma, crazy thing that you need to learn on how to sell scriptless and so forth. And what I will tell you with that is, in order to sell scriptless, you first need to start with a script. You need a baseline framework, a baseline of questions that you need to ask before you understand how to sell scriptless. I can't expect to take a sales call for a brand new offer tomorrow and just jump in with no script and listen and be able to close the deal. And so again, the purpose of selling scriptless is to first start with a script. Now, understanding how to go scriptless after using the script is extremely important. And that is because you want your conversation that you have with this prospect to sound natural and authentic. You don't want it to sound like you are not paying attention to them. And you are just lining up different questions that you have written on a piece of paper. Like, imagine if you are speaking with a prospect and they tell you in the first 5 minutes, like, yeah, real estate, it is going like really bad. I bought a house and I have lost $100,000 on it. Yet the next question on your script is, what is your vision? What is your goal with real estate? And you hear that, you look at your piece of paper and you say, yeah, I don't really care about that, which you wouldn't say, right? But that is essentially what you're saying. Anyways, what is your vision? What is your goal? You got to be able to free flow with the conversation and understand where the prospect is coming from. And if they tell you in the first 5 minutes, I lost a ton of money with a property, I'm going to follow up with, God, that sucks. What happened? How long ago was that? How much money did you lose? What went wrong? Hey, by the way, what do you want to see from our team that we can make sure your next property will be successful for you rather than losing money? And so in order for you to go to scriptless, it is really simple. Start with a script. Use it for your first 2 to 4 weeks on your sales calls. Eventually, because you took so many reps, it will be memorized in the back of your head. And then you could ditch the script and just free flow with the conversation and utilize the script that you memorized already as a baseline in the back of your head. Meaning, I know what questions to ask, but now I could just speak with the prospect, listen to what they say, and ask my next question based off their answer. So scriptless selling is super important. I teach it to everybody that work with me. But hey, the first thing I would tell you, if you are starting a new sales role, man, start with the script. They have a system that is working already. Start with it, memorize it, utilize it. 2 weeks from now, we could chat about you ditching the script. Now, your presence on your sales calls matters. Put it this way, if you were taking sales calls over a phone call, your prospect could only judge you based off one thing, what you say. But if you're taking sales calls over Zoom, they can now judge you based off 2 things, what you say and how you look. And for that reason, how your prospect perceives you and how you show up to your call is extremely important for you to close deals at a high level. You want to be perceived as somebody who is an authority, somebody who is confident, someone who is clean cut and has their stuff together, or point blank period, somebody who is stable for this prospect, who is about to make a decision that could be huge for them. And what I mean by that is, listen, most high ticket products are anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000. And I am sure even for you watching this right now, pulling out your credit card and paying $20,000 for something is probably a decently big life decision. And so don't you think it will be easier for somebody to make that decision with you if they could see you as an anchor in the conversation, as someone who knows what they are talking about? Think of the flip side. Imagine you are selling something that is $20,000 and you are showing up a mess. You are nervous. You are not confident in yourself or the product that you are selling. How do you expect to be able to close a $20,000 deal, let alone do it consistently day by day? All that to say, get your stuff together. And this reminds me of something that my mother always used to tell me a story. So I used to be a big overthinker. I think all of us were overthinkers growing up. And one thing I would always use to tell my mom is like, hey, what if I fall? And her response was always the same thing. But Rafa, what if you fly? And I have been able to pull that into my career with sales because all it means is it is your decision to look at the glass half full or half empty. It is your decision to go into your sales call saying positive words of affirmation that you are going to crush it, that you are going to do well, that you are going to get the deal done, but it is also your decision to say words of destruction. And I do think you being confident with going onto your calls all starts with that pre-call process. Are you going into your call positively with strong words of affirmation, or are you going into your sales calls doubting yourself? And as the saying goes, you are what you label yourself. Now, when it comes to presence, I always look at these three things before I take any sales calls for the day. How do I look? What do I see? And how do I feel? When it comes to how do I look, I will quote Deion Sanders. If you don't know who he is, you should. And what he says is something along these terms. Look good, feel good, play good, get paid good. So I do think the better you look, the better you feel, the better you play, and then the better you get paid. So you will never catch me taking a sales call not looking like the best version of myself. Now, number two is, what do I see? And for this, I will quote something that Plato says, and I am not going to quote it exactly, but he basically says that an environment that is in disarray causes a mind that is in disarray. And so I always do my best before I start taking sales calls for the day to keep my environment tidy, because for me, it is hard to have a clear, locked-in mind if my entire life is a mess, and especially my environment. Now, when it comes to how do I feel, I always just look at three things. Am I working out? Am I eating? And am I hydrating? Sales is damn near like playing chess in your head. And so if you are not doing things on a daily basis to keep your mind sharp again, it will be difficult to close deals at a high level. Now, with that, another piece that a lot of people don't touch on sales calls is being yourself. And so I used to overcompensate. I used to pretend to be somebody that I am not. I would wear these fancy button-ups and I would use this fancy language to make myself seem smarter than I am. And it made it difficult to show up to work every day because I almost felt like I had to put my sales cap on. I couldn't be myself. I couldn't be Rafa. Listen, sales has changed a lot in the past 10 years. People want to buy from somebody who is authentic. Authenticity matters. And most people could tell intuitively if you are pretending to be somebody that you are not. And so this small pivot for me not only helped me sell more deals, but it helped me not feel like I was showing up to work every day and putting on this fake sales hat in order to get through the day. So be yourself on sales calls. Even to the point where whenever you land a new role, the first thing you should do is take the script that the sales manager created for you and edit it and humanize it. Write it in your own language. Any sales script that you receive was always written in the language of the sales manager who wrote it. For example, I may say at the start of the sales call, "Hey, Mr. Prospect, I love to be tactical with our time. Do you mind if we jump into things?" And so if I was creating a script, I would probably have that written in the initial start of the script. But you may never say that. Maybe for yourself, you have never used the word tactical ever in your life. So why would you say it on a sales call? You are just going to feel robotic and feel like you are not being yourself. And so whenever you land a first sales role, the first thing you should do is take the script, sit down over Zoom, read it out loud, and edify all the language to make it your own. If you would never say, "I love to be tactical with our time," change it to what you would say. Say the same thing in a different way. That way you could start selling like yourself rather than selling like Rafa. And you don't need to act like a Wolf of Wall Street sales shark. You just need to be yourself and ask good questions and present your product as a solution to the problems and goals. They are there for a reason, and your job is to guide them. Understanding this allows you to remove your emotion from the sale and just focus on having a conversation. And always remember, you are solution selling, not feature selling. We are consultants, not therapists. So what I mean by that is that your job is to present your product as a solution to their problems and to not be the sales rep that is sitting there listing feature after feature in your product pitch, expecting that is what is going to get them to buy. Now that we have touched on pre-call best practices, let's go ahead and go over how to set, frame, and lay agenda for your sales call. Now, I know you saw this on the one call close structure that I showed you about 10 minutes ago, but setting frame is super simple. A lot of people overthink it. The reason why you set frame of a conversation is for three reasons. Number one is to showcase your authority and tell the prospect that, hey, I have done these calls dozens and dozens of times before. Number two is to lay the foundations for the sales call, basically letting the prospect know, hey, I am in control. This is the way the conversation is going to go. Follow my lead. And finally, number three is to let the prospect know, hey, if you are a good fit, I will let you know and you will be buying today. Essentially laying the foundations for the close. Now, what I am going to do right now is give you my exact script that I use for setting frame. But before that, we need to touch on two important pieces before you actually lay agenda of your sales call. And if you don't remember these pieces, scroll back to 10 minutes ago and review that one call close structure that I showed you. That way way you understand what I am talking about. Now, before you lay the agenda for your sales call or set frame, there are two important pieces we need to go over. Number one is making sure they watch the pre-call preparation video. And number two is pre-qualifying any red flags. So you can be like, hey, Mr. Prospect, before we jump into things, did you happen to see that video that we sent over to you? You know, the one with Influencer X where he pretty much breaks down what we do here with our company. The reason why this is important is because pre-call videos pre-pitch your offer to the prospect. That way, it is easier for them to buy on one single call. And put it this way, imagine I am on a sales call with you and I pitch you a product that is $10,000 and say, cool, next steps are simple. Let's get you logged in. Let's get you ready to go. But the only thing you have ever seen from our company is just a website. It is going to take a lot of trust for you to go ahead and pull out your credit card and pay $10,000 for something. And so pre-call prep videos help mitigate that. They give a prospect a visual representation of what they are about to buy before they have a conversation with you. On top of that, most pre-call prep videos show social proof, meaning, hey, what we do here works. Here is a dozen testimonials of people who are successful with XYZ thing. And so if you're a closer and your sales team does not have some type of pre-call preparation video, I would recommend nicely bring it up to your sales manager or your CEO because it will help you a ton, you know? But again, what it does is gives a prospect a visual representation of what we do and who it works for. That way, they come into the sales call pre-sold. Now, after asking about the pre-call prep video, the next thing that I am doing is pre-qualifying any red flags. And there are 4 red flags that you will see on a sales call that you always want to pre-qualify. Number 1 is business partner. Number 2 is spouse. Number 3 is finances. And number 4 is buying state. And so I will define each of those and go over what each of them mean right now. Now, when it comes to business partner, that is quite simple. If you are selling something B2B, it is probably going to help you out a lot to make sure in the first 5 minutes of the call, is there anybody else that needs to be involved with making a decision for this business? And people overthink it. I mean, listen, if you are selling B2B or speaking with professional buyers on a daily basis, you don't need to beat around the bush or find some special way to ask the question. Just ask it simply by saying, hey, Mr. Prospect, before we jump into things, I just want to make sure, is there any other business partners or anyone else who needs to be involved with you making this type of decision? As long as they say no, we can move on to the next section of the call. Now, the second thing is spouse. Now, not to be like facetious here, the way the world works is like most men could typically make a decision without speaking with the wife. And sometimes it is a lot more common when you are speaking with a woman that, hey, maybe the husband is helping them pay if they are a stay-at-home mom. Or, most times I just realize that the spousing objection comes up way more with women than it does with men. And so it is always helpful to ask the question as well. For example, if I am selling a fitness offer and I realize I am speaking with a stay-at-home mom, it is a pretty good sign that, hey, the husband probably needs to be involved with her spending $4,000, $6,000 or sometimes even more. And so that is the second piece that I will always pre-qualify on a sales call. And then we move on to piece number 3, which is finances. Now, finances is making sure that somebody is financially qualified to even purchase your product in the first place. For example, if I am selling a real estate offer and most of the prospects that I speak with are 30, 40, 50 years old. But somehow today I get some 21-year-old guy that is in college who is looking to jump into real estate. That is a great sign that I need to pre-qualify finances, because the last thing that I want is to go through a 45-minute conversation, waste a lot of brain power and energy, and then price drop and have them say, God, dude, I am living off like ramen right now. I can't afford that. Now, I am going to give you an important keynote at the end of breaking down these pre-qualified red flags, so stick around for it. But the final red flag that you want to qualify is buying state. Buying state is a super simple term. It just means the person that you are speaking with, are they in the right state to have a conversation and buy something today? Red flags on buying state is someone showing up on their cell phone, showing up on their lunch break from work, showing up while driving in their car. Or hey, for example, if you have maybe a woman or even a man on a sales call and you could hear their kids screaming and crying in the background. That is a great sign that they are not in buying state. And so it is always best to reschedule the call for a better time where they could lock in and have the conversation, or AKA when they are in buying state. And this is really important, you guys, because our job as a salesperson is to have a hard conversation with a prospect and get them to make a life decision or a life change sometimes. And so how could we expect them to to have that type of conversation if they showed up from their cell phone, or they are driving in the car, or they are on a 30-minute lunch break, or their kids are screaming in the background. Now, you may be asking, Rafa, but so what do I do? Am I supposed to reschedule it? What if they don't show up to the meeting? I would say two things with that. Number one is if they don't show up, they were never serious in the first place. And number two, 99% of the time, prospects actually respect and trust you more if you could pick up on these things and say, hey, it seems like you have a lot going on. I could hear the kiddos in the background. Is it okay if we just reschedule this for a better time for yourself? Almost every time when I say that to a prospect, they actually follow up with yeah, man, I would actually appreciate that. I just didn't want to no-show the meeting because I gave you an obligation that I would show up. And so buying state, that is the final thing that I am always pre-qualifying before I set frame. Now, an important piece and the key that I mentioned is that when it comes to pre-qualifying, you only need to do it if you see the red flags. And so what I mean by that is something like finances. Listen, it could throw somebody off at the end of the day if they just met you and in the first 5 minutes, you're asking about how much money they have saved in their bank account. And so the only reason why I am going to pre-qualify finances in the first 5 minutes of the call is if I notice that it is a red flag. If I am selling something that is $10,000 and I have a 20-year-old on the call, that is a great sign that I am just going to be straightforward and pre-qualify them in the first place. If I have someone who is 40 and they tell me in the first 2 minutes, hey man, nice to meet you, I am an engineer, my day is going great, and so forth, that is a great sign that I probably don't need to pre-qualify finances. And if I do, I am going to wait until later the conversation when I have earned the right to ask that question. And it is the same thing with business partners. I mean, if you are selling something B2B and someone shows up with their business partner, hey, you don't need to ask the question. Or if you are selling a product where the husband and wife show up to the call, we don't need to pre-qualify spouses. And same thing with buying state as well. If I have someone who shows up in their office, they are locked in with the conversation. There is no reason for me to pre-qualify buying state. So again, pre-qualifying red flags is labeled that way for a reason. You are qualifying the red flags. If there are no red flags, there is nothing for you to qualify. Now that we have hit those important 2 key pieces before setting frame, we could go ahead and jump into agenda. And I am just going to put it this way. I am just going to give you the exact thing that I say whenever I lay agenda or lay the foundations of the sales call. So if you want, just copy and paste exactly what I say and take it to your calls. And it is super simple. All I say is, listen, Mr. Prospect, just so you know how the conversation goes, I have done these calls thousands of times. And so what I am going to do is ask you a couple of questions just to make sure that we are a good fit for you, but also to make sure that you are a good fit with coming into our team. We do take client success very seriously. And so overall, we just want to make sure that we could actually help. If we can, I will be the first person to let you know. I will cover every question you have, give you a full breakdown of how we will help you A through Z. And then, as long as you like what you hear, we will get you ready to rock by the end of the call and get you onboarded. Is that okay? Which is permission to proceed. Now, what I did in that frame set is 3 things. I placed myself as authority by telling them I have had these conversations thousands of times. Number 2 is I laid expectations of the call, basically saying, hey, I am in control. I am going to ask you questions, follow my lead. And number 3, I laid the foundations for the close. I told the prospect, hey, if you are a good fit, I will let you know and we will be onboarding you today. Right? I mean, a lot of sales and what you do is just laying the foundations for them to pay by the end of the conversation. And this is the first checkpoint that I do on every single sales call to begin laying those foundations. I want the prospect to know, hey, you will be paying and being onboarded today. Is that okay with you? Yes, that is okay. And then I will move on to discovery. And another side note is this begins to prevent the objection that, oh, I had no idea that I had to pay right now. And I know this because that has come up for me before, where I get to the end of the sales call, I pitch the product, they say that they are good to go, and then I send them the payment link and they are like, oh, I gotta pay right now. And so start laying those foundations from the second you take the sales call that this is a decision-making call, and as long as we see you as a good fit, we will get you started today. Now, another piece of the start of your sales call is avoiding probing questions. Listen, you are going to have every once in a while a buyer in power, which is somebody who is serious about potentially buying your thing, but they are going to need the full sales call in order to make a decision. And every once in a while, you will get the guy who floods you with a ton of the questions in the first 5 minutes of the conversation. Now, if they have an important key question, it is okay to answer it directly. But you want to do your best to flip the conversation and say, hey, I know it seems like you have a ton of questions. I promise I will be answering them throughout the call, but I want to make sure that I can make sure that this is a good fit for you. So if you don't mind, here is how the conversation is going to go. The last thing that you want on any sales call is for somebody to make you start walking backwards and just start asking thousands and thousands of questions. Now, what else I will add on to that is that if somebody asks you a question, you want your response to be short and sweet and straight to the point. So again, if they ask me, hey, how long will it take me to succeed? I will say, based off where you are at, it will take you 4 months. Does that make sense? Do you have any questions on that? Did that answer your question? Okay, cool. And then move on. But don't get caught up in the first 5 minutes of your sales call walking backwards and getting asked a million questions. Now that I just covered how to set frame and the importance of it, let's cover the discovery section of your sales call. Now, what I will say is discovery is by far the most important piece of your sales call. 99% of the time, if you do not close a deal or if you are receiving consistent objections at the end of the call, it is most likely because you weren't asking the right questions during discovery and maybe you weren't pre-handling the objections correctly. So what I will do with this section of this video is break down number 1, the discovery framework that I have used the past years to get to where I am. And then number 2 is I will break down the way that I pre-handle objections at the end of discovery. Now, a good closer simply knocks on the door, then moves on to the next section of the sales call. A great closer knocks on the door, opens it, and then walks all the way through. And that analogy is supposed to break down the difference of being on the surface level versus diving deeper with the questions that you are asking. And here's an example. If I am selling a B2B offer that has to do with helping a business get more leads or generate more leads for their business, and I ask, hey, so what are you looking for help with when it comes to scaling your business? And they tell me, yeah, well, I am looking to get more consistent lead flow for my business. That is the surface level. And a good closer will hear that and say, okay, beautiful. Now, what is the goal when you start getting more leads? Essentially moving on to the next section of the call without diving deeper into that subject. A great closer understands if they knock on the door, they got to open the door and then also walk all the way through. Meaning, if somebody tells me, hey, I want to get more leads to scale my business, my follow-up would be, okay, beautiful. And if you don't mind me asking, how are you currently getting leads? Now, that is me opening the door from there. Once they break down the way that they are getting leads, I am going to dive even deeper and say something like, okay, so you are currently running Facebook ads and posting organic content. What has you looking for an additional lead source currently? And so that is one example of walking all the way through the door. But I could even say different examples. If you are selling something B2C, like maybe a BSOP offer, and BSOP, all that means is business opportunity. So it is something like maybe helping people start and scale their agency. You know, a very common prospect that you will have on those calls are the people who want to quit their 9 to 5. And so a good closer will simply knock on the door and ask, hey, so what has you want to start an agency? Maybe the prospect will say, well, I am looking to start this so I could quit my 9 to 5 and work from home. And then they will simply just move on to the next section of the call and say, okay, beautiful. How long have you been wanting to do that? Now, a great closer, again, understands if I knock on the door, I have to open it and I need to walk all the way through by saying something like, okay, makes sense. So it seems like you are looking to leave your job. Is that correct? Okay, makes sense. So how much money would we need to make with the agency? That way you have the option to leave the job. That is me opening the door. And once they say they need to make $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 in order to leave their job, I am going to follow up with, okay, and if you don't mind me asking, what has you wanting to leave your job in the first place? You are making decent money. And that is me walking all the way through the door that I have opened. Now, there are different layers of questions that you could stack on top of that, which I will break down. But I wanted to make sure that you understand that analogy. That way, whenever you go into your sales calls or you review your own calls, you could look at the questions that you're asking and ask yourself, am I knocking on the door or am I opening it and walking through as well? And one thing that I wanted to show you guys when diving deep into discovery is helping you understand the overall framework of the direction that you need to take with your conversations during discovery. Now, with that, I am sure you could imagine for me to give you an entire question list of what to ask word by word would be extremely difficult. Because for every single offer, you're going to be asking different questions based off the niche and the product that you are selling. For example, if you are selling a dating offer, you could guarantee that you are going to be asking questions about somebody's love life. And if you are watching this and you're wondering, what the hell is a dating offer? Yes, they exist. And they actually make a lot of money right now because it is pretty unique in the marketplace, which is extremely crazy to me. I have never sold one, but there are a lot of dating offers out there. But all that to say, versus, let's say you are selling a dating offer versus a B2B lead gen package or a B2B consulting package for gym owners. You will be asking a hell of a lot of questions about the gym, how long they have been running it, what are they doing to grow the gym, what is the current revenue and metrics look like for yourself. And so it would be quite literally impossible for me to just list out a ton of questions to ask on your discovery. But I can break down the entire framework and what you need to gain out of it. Essentially the check boxes that I keep on a piece of paper whenever I take a sales call. And every time I got the information that I need, I will check off the box and move on to the next subject of the call. Right now, before that, I do want to break down the roller coaster discovery framework. Now, most sales trainers might teach you a framework that's the complete opposite of this. And so even for you, if you are selling currently, I encourage you to try new things and try new methods. That is how you really master your skill with sales, as a whole. And truthfully, I think you never master your skill with sales. To this day, there are still new things that I find that I start implementing into calls. Like asking closing questions was something that I just started doing this past year. Now, if you are even in sales, you probably remember this. Most people, the way they teach you to do discovery, it looks the complete opposite of this, right? So they want you to start with your introduction here. Hey, how are you? What made you book the call? What was the motivation with booking the call? And then they want you to ask their current state struggles. So cool. So what are you facing when it comes to XYZ thing? What is the problem you're facing with lead gen currently or your gym? Or what is the problem you are facing with your dating life if it is a dating offer? Or what is the problem you are facing with real estate? What have you done to fix that problem? What have you tried? Why is it not going well? And so forth. After they want you to take it to future state goals, right? Okay, so now that I understand your problems, once we solve those problems, where is it that you want to go? Right? What is the vision? Why is that important to you? How soon do you want to get there? What is the longer term vision that you see a year from now? And essentially what they want you to do is end the conversation there. And the reason why that is backwards is quite simple. Once you pitch your product, if you use this framework, you are pitching to a heightened sense of emotion to the prospect. And let's say this is your pitch here. And so the analogy that I always use is, let's imagine we are selling a dating offer or a fitness offer. I could guarantee for both of those offers, it is notorious for having criers. Meaning, hey, in a fitness sense, some people are weighing 100 pounds overweight. Maybe their wife left them because they are a mess and they are out of shape. Or even, hey, maybe they have health problems that are really, really serious. And if they don't lose their weight, they are quite literally going to cut off years of their life and possibly die. Not to get grim here, but with your typical sales call structure, what you are doing is you are going to get them to cry in the first 10 minutes of the conversation. Right here, when you talk about their current state struggles. How long have they been overweight? How is that making them feel? What have they tried? How is that affecting them? And then essentially what you will do is tell the prospect, okay, cool. Wipe your tears. I understand you are going through a lot right now, but let's talk about the big vision and get you excited here. So, how will it affect you if you lose 100 pounds? What will that do for your life? How quick do you want to lose 100 pounds? And you are essentially ending the conversation with them at that peak or heightened sense of emotion. And if you have a sales script and you are wondering Rafa, how the hell do I do that? You simply take the questions that you have for current state struggles. You highlight them and copy them with your mouse and then paste it after future state goals and talk about goals first. And so let's look at it again from a dating or fitness offer. And we will use fitness for this example. With this new structure of using the roller coaster analogy, you are still starting with your intro. Hey, what made you book the call? What is the biggest problem that you're facing when it comes to fitness? But once they tell you your problem, you let them know you heard them. Okay, beautiful. So you are 100 pounds overweight and you are looking to lose some weight. Is that correct? Yes, that is correct. And from there, I am taking it straight to future state goals by saying something like, okay, Mr. Prospect, so listen, I always like to begin with the end in mind. So where are we looking to go when it comes to your fitness journey? How soon are you looking to lose 100 pounds? What would that do for you if you lost all that weight and got down to your weight that you were in college? And there are some deeper questions that I will ask, which actually I am about to cover right below this. But you understand the gist, right? So I am taking it to future state goals right away and getting them at that peak emotional state and excitement at the very start of the call. And then as soon as I am done talking about future state goals, I'm going to pull them down to their current state struggles by saying something like, okay, so now that we understand where you want to go, let's talk about the problem that you are facing. You mentioned that you are 100 pounds overweight and that you have been trying to lose this weight for years. Is that correct? Yes, that is correct. Okay, how many years is years if you don't mind me asking? Okay, wow, so you have been trying to lose that weight for 6 years, and how much weight have we lost in the past 6 years? Okay, that makes sense. So, God, you have been struggling for quite some time. How has being 100 pounds overweight affected you these past years? What is the biggest problem that you are facing when it comes to losing that weight? How is that affecting your mindset and your family and the relationships you have around you? Essentially, what I am doing is I am going to get them to cry at the end of discovery. And then I will tell them, wipe your tears. I get that you are going through a lot, but let me pitch you and tell you exactly how our solution is going to bring you back to that heightened sense of emotion. And so the roller coaster analogy, use it. It is really simple to do. All you need to do is talk about future state goals at the top of the call and their current state struggles at the end of the call. And this will be a game changer for you, just like it has for dozens and dozens of other people that I have worked with in sales. All right, now that we covered an overview of the roller coaster analogy, let's dive a little bit deeper into each section of the sales call with discovery. Now, I mentioned earlier, I don't really use scripts anymore unless I start a brand new offer. I will use a script for the first 2 weeks, and once I have it memorized, I will get rid of it. But usually what I have on a sales call is a piece of paper with 4 boxes written on the side with a checkbox next to it. I have the overview. I have future state goals, I have current state struggles, and I have closing questions. On top of that, I understand as a closer, I can't just knock on the door with the questions that I ask in these sections. I need to knock. I need to open the door, and I need to walk all the way through. Now, to this day, I still use Alex Hormozi's closer framework. The only difference is I have now switched around asking future state goals. Instead of at the end of the discovery conversation, I will ask that at the very start. And then as far as overviewing their past problems and pain, I will put that at the end of the conversation. So if you know anything about Hormozi's closer framework, number 1 is C. And what it stands for is number 1, the C stands for clarify why they are here. Basically get that overview. What made you book the call in the first place? Number 2 is to label them with a problem. Basically saying something like, okay, cool. So the problem that you are facing is XYZ based off what you told me. Is that correct? Or by asking, hey, so what are you looking for help with when it comes to scaling your gym? Yeah, well, I am looking for help with ABC. Okay, that makes sense. So it seems like the problem you're facing is ABC. Is that correct? Now, from there, you need to overview their current pain and the past experiences that they felt. And that is the thing that I switched around. That overview, I got rid of it and I pulled it to the very back of the call. And S stands for sell them the vacation, meaning talk about those future state goals. Meaning I clarify why they are here. I label them with the problem, I sell the vacation, I overview their past pain and experiences. And then I get to E, which is explain away their concerns. And then R, which stands for reinforced decision. So as we are looking here, once you get into overview, there are a few things that you need to cover, which is number 1, clarify why we are here. And number 2 is to still label them with a problem. The way that you do that is by asking, hey, so why did you book the call? And that is it. What motivated you to book the call? Right now, most people will tell you, hey, I saw you guys, I saw your website, wanted to get some more information and so forth, and we need to label them with the problem. So my follow-up when someone will say that to me is, okay, cool, well, listen, and I am sure if you just wanted more information, you could have got it from our website or search us up on YouTube. What is the biggest problem that you are facing when it comes to scaling your gym currently? From there, that is where they will give me the problem that I am going to label them with throughout the entire call. Now, what I am not going to do is start overviewing their current problem and the past things that they have tried to fix it, because I am going to focus on that at later in the call during current state struggles. Instead, I'm going to pull the conversation straight into future state goals by number 1, selling the vacation by asking, okay, well, listen, I like to begin with the end in mind. So once we solve this problem with the gym, what is the vision that you have for your business? how long have you been trying to achieve that vision? Why is that important to you? Okay, I always like to dive an extra layer deeper. What will that do for you in your business and your life that you are not able to experience now? And from there, I will take their goals a step further. And what I mean by a step further is the two-step goal framework. And all that means is when you ask someone what their goal or their big vision is with XYZ thing, whether it is B2B or B2C, they tend to give you that first step complacent goal. And the reason why this isn't good enough is a lot of offers. It is not big enough of a vision for them to sit there and spend $10,000 at the end of the call. Like, let's imagine I am selling a $40,000 product and there were plenty of gym owners that came onto the call and said, hey, Rafa, my goal and my vision is just to be profitable. I just want to be able to make like $5,000 or $6,000 a month. Now, I will pose a question for you watching this. Do you think a goal of $5,000 or $6,000 a month will be enough for them to sit there and pull out their credit card and take a loan for $40,000 at the end of the conversation? And if you don't know the answer, no, not at all. We need them to think bigger. Our job as salespeople is to help people uncover the goals that they didn't even know that they had. And so all a two-step goal means is once I figure out that first step. Okay, you want to make $5,000 to $8,000? I am going to follow up with what is your bigger vision beyond that? And I am going to sit there and paint the vision and sell the vacation of that big vision that they want to reach. If I got a gym owner to go from, hey, I want to make $5,000 to $8,000 to actually, Rafa, I mean, listen, I would love to have $1 million per year gym and own multiple locations and serve thousands and thousands of people every single month. And here is what it will do for my family. Like, it is so much easier for them to fathom and stomach paying $40,000 for our consulting program. Because now it is not about them just making 5 or 8K and being profitable. It is about them becoming $1 million per year gym and owning multiple locations. So whether it is B2B or whether it is B2C, you should always have a two-step goal. If I have a prospect tell me, hey man, my goal is just to quit my job and listen, I need to make $5,000 a month to do it. That is about it. Super simple. Of course, I will touch on that and say, why is that important? How long have you been trying to leave the job? But I am always going to hit that second step of the goal, which is, hey man, listen, you can make $5,000 just becoming a hairdresser. And there are so many things that you could do. So what is the bigger vision that you see with the agency? And I am going to sit there and paint the vision and sell a vacation of that bigger vision. I want to hear the prospect say, I want financial freedom. Okay, what does financial freedom mean to you? Well, it means being able to travel the world and have a penthouse in Miami and help my mom. Okay, well, how much money do we need to make that happen? Well, honestly, I would probably need like $40,000 a month. Okay, cool. I love it. I love the vision that you have, man. Let me ask you this. You are currently working a warehouse job and you are making $5,000 to $8,000 a month and you just told me all this financial freedom stuff that you want. Do you mind if I ask you a question? Don't hate me here. Okay, would you ever be able to make $40,000 per month and travel the world and help your mom and get the penthouse if you just stay in that warehouse shop? Well, no, not at all. Okay, so what do we think that we need to do? Well, I need to take a step forward. I need to commit. I need to get help with this. And then I am pulling it straight to current state struggles. Okay, so what are you struggling with? What do you need help with? How long have you been looking for help, right? So let me know if that made sense to you in the comments. You are starting with that overview. You are going straight into future state goals, and then you are going into current state struggles. And current state struggles, you want to cover a couple things. Number one is to overview their past pain, meaning like, what have you tried and why didn't that work? And then finally, you're going to end it off with explaining away their concerns. Meaning, you want to make it logical to the prospect as to why the things that they tried didn't work and how you are different. And once you wrap these 3 sections up, I am just going straight into closing questions. Now, closing questions is how I end every single discovery conversation. And essentially what I am doing is I am pre-handling objections. And there are 4 objections that you want to pre-handle on every single call. Number 1 is commitment. Number 2 is the partner objection. Number 3 is finances. And number 4 is timing. So for commitment, once I go through these 3 sections of the call and I understand their overview, why they are here and what their problem is and their future state goals, I understand where they want to go and what the big vision is once we solve that problem. But then I also understand their current state struggles as to, hey, this is what I have tried to solve the problem. This is why it didn't work. This is what I am looking for help with. I am first going to tie them up with commitment and ask a closing question by saying something like, hey, Mr. Prospect, I totally understand where you want to go. You want to get to $40,000 per month. This is the problem that you're facing, and this is what you want to try. Listen, we could definitely help you get there, but this is something that you need to be committed to on your end. So as long as we could get you to $40,000 per month and solve XYZ problem, is this something that you would be committed to move forward with today? I am looking for that hard yes. And if you frame it that way, your prospect will always say yes. Well, yeah, Rafa, listen, obviously I want to hear you guys break down like what it is you have to offer, but if you could get me to $40,000 per month and solve my lead gen issue, then I would definitely be willing to move forward today. And then I will say, beautiful. And just to be sure, for you moving forward today, does anyone else need to be involved with you making a decision? Basically, I am pre-handling the partner objection, and obviously I am looking for a no. Now, if they are to tell me yes, like obviously I actually do, I need my wife here, I need my business partner, that is a great sign to just answer some questions that the prospect has and then reschedule the call when we could get all the decision makers on a single call. So if you have more questions on that, put it in the comments. But yes, if somebody tells me on a sales call, I cannot make a decision today because I need someone else on the call, then I am going to respect that and reschedule it for a time where I could get all the decision makers. Finally, I am moving into finances and then timing. So finances, I only cover it as needed, but at the end of the day, sometimes you will have somebody that you are questioning if they are financially qualified to purchase your product in the first place. And that is your time to dive into finances. And the way I break down finances, I always blame it on the niche and the product that I am selling. Meaning, if I am selling a real estate offer, I will ask the question in this way. Hey, so by the way, Mr. Prospect, obviously finding and purchasing a property will cost some money. Let's say we find you the perfect property tomorrow. How much money do you have set and saved to the side to jump into that deal? Or if I am selling a B2B lead gen package, I would say something like, hey man, listen, ad spend costs money. At the end of the day, we always create a tailored game plan based off where you are at currently. But what do you have set and saved to the side in total that we could dedicate towards getting you some more leads? It is a little bit less invasive compared to asking someone, what do you have saved in your bank account? And it is a logical way of asking the question that will make the prospect give you a truthful answer. Now, finally, we are wrapping up with timing. And the reason why I say timing is because the last thing that I want to happen at the end of the sales call is somebody to tell me, hey, Rafa, this all sounds great. Sounds like a lot, but I don't really have enough time to implement all this stuff. And so for me, all I am going to ask is like, hey, for the sake of starting your agency, how many hours do you have per day? Or I would say something like, hey, for purchasing your first real estate property, obviously it is going to take a little bit of time that you need to dedicate towards this. How much time do you have on a weekly basis to dedicate towards real estate? Now, the key is for finances and timing. I will never give them the finances that they need to have saved or the time that they need to have available. I will just ask the question instead. And so what I mean by that is I will never tell a prospect, hey, do you have 3 hours per day? Because that is what we need for you to succeed. And I will never tell a prospect, hey, do you have $10,000 saved? Because that is what you need to join into our group. Instead, I will ask an open-ended question and ask them how much time they have or how much money they have saved. That way it protects me as a salesperson from hearing a no, right? I mean, imagine you tell somebody like, hey, so for you to get to XYZ goal, it is going to take you 3 hours per day, which is pretty normal. Do you have that? And they say, 3 hours is kind of a lot. I have a kid. I mean, that is going to be really difficult to stretch. You just created an objection that didn't exist. So instead, I am going to ask the prospect, hey, how much time do you have for real estate? And once they tell me, oh, I have about 2 hours per day, I will follow up with, beautiful, makes sense. So just so you know, I mean, typically what we look for is about 5 to 7 hours per week. So it sounds like that is doable for you, correct? Then they will say, yes, that is correct. And we just pre-handled that objection. And again, it is the same thing for finances. If I ask somebody, hey, what do you have set and saved to the side for real estate? and they say, I got about $50,000, I will say, beautiful man, you are coming in at a really good spot. I mean, most people coming in to get their first property have about $20,000 to $30,000 saved. So it seems like that is doable for you. Is that correct? Yes, that is correct. And after covering these closing questions, I am simply finishing the conversation by saying, awesome, I don't have any other questions. Was there anything else that you wanted to share that I missed from the past couple minutes? Once I get that no, I am going to hit transition and then go into closing. Now, to cover transition is super simple, you guys. I mean, really, it is just one sentence that you say of, hey, we could definitely help you get to XYZ goal and solve X problem. Do you mind if I break down how we are going to do that? Permission to proceed. You are basically asking, hey, we could help you, we could solve that problem. Do you give me permission to pitch you and explain how we are going to do that? And that is it. That is the only thing you need to cover with transition. But what I will always say is, once you give your transition question or statement, if you can move forward to pitching, always include their goal. Always include their problem and tell them that you could solve it. Don't have a half-assed transition. Meaning saying something like, okay, well, I think we could definitely help you. Do you mind if I just break down the entire program as a whole? Instead, get granular. Show them that you are listening. Hey, Jimmy, I have a full understanding of where you're at. You want to get to $40,000 per month, and this is a problem that you are facing. We could definitely help you with that. Do you mind if I break that down for you right now? And then we move on to pitching. Now, just to reiterate for discovery, the 4 sections you're going to have on your piece of paper to make sure that you checked off is, number 1 is overview, number 2 is future state goals, number 3 is current state struggles, and number 4 is closing questions. And if you do this correctly and finish off the conversation with closing questions, you should have the prospect at the point where they said they are fully committed. This is something that they are ready to move forward with. And as long as you could help them, they are ready to buy today. And then we are going into the pitch. And the pitch is just going to connect the dots and give them the logical explanation and the roadmap of how we will solve that problem and help them reach that goal. And again, remember with all of these sections, your job as a great closer, not a good closer, isn't just to knock on the door. It is to knock on the door, open it, and then walk all the way through. All right, so now that we have covered discovery and a bit of transition as well, let's dive into the last 2 pieces of a 1-call close or of your sales calls in general, even if it is a 2-call close. Now, what that looks like is pitching and closing, but also objection handling. So I am going to combine pitching and closing together, and we will dive into it. Now, you may be listening to this and say like, Rafa, you make sales sound really simple. And if I do, then I have done a good job at explaining this. At the end of the day, sales is just having a normal conversation, but a directed conversation. A conversation that you are directing to the point of them giving you money and you saying, hey, is this something you want to move forward with? So I hope the first, fundamental pieces of a sales call that I have covered sounded simple to you because it is supposed to be. And I am about to do the same with pitching. You are going to start with your high-level promise. But if you remember what I said in the last section of this video before you say your high-level promise, you are in transition, right? So after discovery and you tell the prospect, hey, I don't have too many other questions. Is there anything else that you wanted to share? And they say, no, I think you covered it all. I am going to say my transition sentence, which is, okay, awesome, Mr. Prospect. We could definitely help you reach X goal and solve XYZ problem. Do you mind if I explain how we are going to do that? I am basically asking for permission to proceed so I could go ahead and start pitching them. Once they say, hell yes, let's do it, break it down. I am going to dive straight into my high-level promise. And your high-level promise is the overarching promise that your company provides for its customers. So for Gym Launch, for example, their whole shtick was, we will turn you into $1 million per year gym. So I would say something like, awesome, just so you understand, here at Gym Launch, we have been around for the past 5 years and we have scaled hundreds of companies to become $1 million per year gyms. And when you break that down, that means your business is making about $83,000 per month. And what I'll do right now, Mr. Prospect, is cover exactly how we are going to do that with you as well. That is my high-level promise. And the reason why I am framing it this way is because I want to tap into the emotion of the prospect. At the end of the day, people make decisions emotionally and then they compensate logically. And so at the top of your pitch, you want to hit that emotionally styled statement. That way, you could get that buy-in from your prospect as you are about to break down the logic behind it. So once again, your high-level promise is the overarching commitment that your company provides for its customers. And so I will give you another example for a business this up agency offer? I would say something like, beautiful. So here at Super Agency, what we promise, man, is to help you start your agency from scratch and help you scale it beyond 10,000 plus per month. And what I am about to do right now is break down exactly how we are going to do that. Now, let's shift it one more time. For a real estate offer, I would say something like, beautiful. So, Mr. Prospect, just so you know, we have been around for the past 7 years. And what we focus on is helping students acquire 3 to 4 properties, investment properties every single year. And I'll explain now how we are going to do that, right? I am sure you guys are starting to understand the gist a little bit. And I will give you one last example. In a lead gen offer, my high-level promise would go something like this. Hey, Mr. Prospect, just so you know, here at Lead Gen Kingdom, we have been around for the past X amount of years. And what we do for every single client that we work with is provide a variety of client acquisition systems. That way, you could scale beyond 6 figures per month. And I'll explain now how we are going to do that, right? So number one is your high-level promise, and then you start going into each pillar. Now, I remember Oren Klaff said this. If you guys don't know who Oren Klaff is, he's a sales OG. I would recommend, if you want to get a sales book, get Pitch Anything, and then get Flip the Script. But I will say, make sure you read Pitch Anything first, because that is the first series of the book, and then read Flip the Script afterwards. Now, a few things that Oren Klaff talks about is, one, you want to pitch to the croc brain of the prospect, meaning the emotional side of the prospect, which is why we are starting off our pitch with a high-level promise, so we could tap into that emotion. Number two, there is a lot of science behind this, but humans attain and understand information better in groups of 3. And so whenever you pitch your product or service, you shouldn't have 2 pillars, 4 pillars, 5 pillars. Have 3 every single time. Now, as you pitch each pillar, what you are going to follow is the PFS framework. Problem, feature, solution, which means after I break down my high-level promise and I say, hey, what we do here at Super Agency is help people start their agency from scratch and scale beyond 10,000 per month. I'm about to break down how we do that right now. I am going to start off with pillar number 1. And the first thing I will address at the top of pillar number 1 is the problem that the prospect is facing. So I will say something like, hey, Mr. Prospect, do you remember how you told me one of the biggest problems you are facing is understanding how to actually get clients with your business? And they will agree and say, yeah, I remember how I said that. From there, I will go ahead and list off a feature of our product. Okay? So what we are going to do is meet with you on a weekly basis and hold your hand throughout the client acquisition process and check in with you. That way, you could develop a bulletproof system for getting consistent clients. And that is an example, but you get the gist. For feature, I am going to list off the actual feature of the product, and then I will move on to the solution and say something like, what that is going to do for you, Mr. Prospect, is give you a reliable way to get clients over the next year. And I will follow up with alignments. Does that make sense? And do you feel like that could help you? And once I get those 2 yeses, I will move on to pillar number 2. Awesome. Now, to cover the second thing, Mr. Prospect, do you remember how you told me that you don't understand how to fulfill the service for the clients that buy from you? And they will say, yeah, I do remember that. Then I will list off the feature. Again, what we are going to do is sit down with you and help you outsource fulfillment for yourself. That way, you could focus on closing clients and collecting the money, then passing it on to your fulfillment team, and they could deliver those results for you. Feature, then I move on to solution. And what that is going to do for you, Mr. Prospect, is put you in the position to where you don't need to stress on client fulfillment. You will have an outsourced team from a different country that will do the client fulfillment for you at a quarter of the price. And then I will go into alignment. Does that make sense? Do you feel like that will help you? Once I get that yes, I will move on to pillar number 3 and do the same thing. So if you redevelop and revamp your pitch like this, you will make more money in sales. Number 1 is to split your pitch up into 3 pillars. Always start with your high-level promise, and then each pillar needs to be broken up in the problem, feature, solution framework. Remember, sales is consulting, not therapy. And so if you have just some feature-based pitch of you listing off feature A, feature B, feature C, feature D, you are not truly consulting the person that you are speaking with. It is not that you need to recustomize a pitch for every single person that you talk to. You just need to ask good questions during discovery so we could figure out these 3 highlighted pieces here. What are the 3 problems that the prospect is facing? That way, with each pillar, I could add the problem on top of it and make it feel like it is customized to the prospect, even though I say the same thing on every single call. Does that make sense? Does that feel like it will help you? Now, after pitching my 3 pillars, I am going to wrap up the pitch by saying something like, awesome, that covers everything. What questions do you have on that? Once you finish your 3rd pillar of the pitch, you are now moving into closing. And the first thing I am going to do after breaking down that pillar is answer any questions the prospect has and exhaust all of those questions. Meaning, I am going to answer every question they have. I am going to ask them if that answered the question, and then I am going to say, what other questions do you have? Until the prospect gets to the point of saying, Rafa, you covered everything, man. I have 0 questions left. Why is this important? It is really simple. We do not want questions to come up after we drop price and we are trying to take payment and close the deal. It takes the prospect away from the straight line of the sale. Imagine if we finish pitching here and we go straight into price drop and say, beautiful. So now that you understand everything, it will be $10,000. Chances are the prospect is going to be like, okay, wait, that is expensive, but let me ask questions on this. How does that work? How does this work? And it starts pulling the prospect away from the straight line of getting the close. And so as soon as I finish pitching, I'm going to exhaust all questions simply by saying, cool, that covers everything. Do you have any questions on anything we just touched on? Now, another key piece with this is to keep your answers to their questions short, sweet, and straight to the point. 1 sentence, 10 words. That is it. Meaning, for example, if I get to this point and I say, cool, that covers everything, what questions do you have? And maybe the prospect will say like, hey, Rafa, how long will it take for me to become $1 million per year gym? What you don't want to say is some long-winded answer that is just going to create more questions for the prospect. Meaning, let's imagine I say, well, for most people, it takes about a year. We did have one person where it took 3 months, but I do think based off where you are at currently, it should take about 6 months. Most likely the prospect is going to follow up with, wait, so what is the difference between the 1-year guy and the 3-month guy? And how come it is only going to take me 6 months? The next thing you know, you are walking backwards, asking more and more questions. And once again, it is taking the prospect away from the straight line of the sale. And so as soon as I pitch number 3, I am going to exhaust all questions and keep everything short, sweet, and straight to the point. So if a prospect asks me, hey, Rafa, how long will it take me to become $1 million per year gym? I am simply going to answer, listen, for most people, including yourself, it takes about 6 months. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Did that answer that question? Beautiful. What other questions do we have? So remember, if you are answering questions for a prospect, less is more. Stop giving such long-winded answers that just creates more questions and more concerns and talks yourself out of the sale. Instead, give short, sweet, straight to the point answers. Now, once you get your prospect to the point of saying like, hey man, do you have any other questions? And they say, no, Rafa, I have 0 questions left. You can move on to the next piece of closing, which is alignment. Now, the purpose of alignment is for 2 reasons. Number 1, it is to really slow the conversation down and have good pacing up to the point of taking payment. And the reason why this is important, I can't tell you how many closers I have seen do such a great job on a sales call, and then lose the call and lose the deal in the last 10 minutes because they get overhyped, overexcited, overstimulated, and get a little bit weird when it comes to asking for money. All of a sudden, the prospect's red flags come up and they hang up and, never buy the product in the first place. And so you want to have good pacing. And that is the reason why we are not going to drop price right away. Instead, as soon as we finish pitching, we are going to act like we don't care and just be like, hey man, listen, that covers everything. What questions do you have on everything that we just touched on? Once all questions are covered, I usually say something like this for alignment. Beautiful. So just to be sure, this is most important, Mr. Prospect. Do you feel like everything that we touched on could get you to XYZ goal and solve X problem? Remind the prospect why they are on the call in the first place, especially if you are selling something that is $10, $15, $20, $40,000. It is so easy for the prospect to forget their goal and the problem that we are trying to solve once we say that big of a ticket price. And so directly before we price drop, we want to get alignment and remind the prospect why they are on the call. And a keynote that I will say with this is alignment cannot be weak. Just like your transition before you pitch, you need to be direct and use the right wordage when you get alignment. Alignment is not asking the prospect, hey, so just to be sure, this is most important. Do you feel like this will help you? Alignment is not asking, do you feel like this will make sense? Alignment is being direct. Hey, Mr. Prospect, this is most important. You told me you want to reach X goal and solve X problem. Do you feel like what I touched on today could get you there? Yes or no? And so be direct when you get alignment. Now, once you get that green light from the prospect and they say, yeah, Rafa, I actually do feel like this will get me to the goal and the vision that I kind of have for my business, you could go into price drop. Now, a lot of you may have seen content already on price drop, whether it is from me or from other people. And Hormozi is really big on just say the price and shut up. I do not believe in that. I feel like it gets awkward. Let's remove the awkwardness. What I do when I price drop is value stack the price first and then drop the price and shut up. Meaning I am going to do a quick summary and restack the offer first and then say the $10,000 ticket price and stay quiet. So that looks a little something like this. Once I do alignment and they say, yes, I do feel like this will get me to XYZ goal, I'm going to say, beautiful. So for everything covered the entire year, getting you to that $10,000 per month goal, us meeting with you one-on-one every single week, the 5 calls that you will be able to come to, and us helping you set up that client acquisition system, it will be $10,000. Now, at this point, this is where I drop the price and I shut up. And 2 things will happen in this scenario. Either the prospect will be like, okay, and then we are going to assume the close. Or the prospect will give you an objection. And in that case, we are going to objection handle, then assume the close, right? So an example of that is me value stacking the product and say, cool, for everything included to get you to XYZ goal A, B, and C, it will be $10,000. And maybe the prospect says something like, it is kind of expensive. Okay, I am just going to assume the close and say, beautiful. So next steps are simple. Let's get you logged in. Let's get you scheduled for your call tomorrow. I'll give you a breakdown of what you need to focus on for the next 24 hours, and then we will be good to go. Is that cool? And as long as they give me the thumbs up, I am going to take it straight into the close and taking payment. Now, sometimes if you assume the close, this is where the prospect may give you an objection. Once you tell them, awesome, next steps are simple. Let's get you logged in and marching forward. They may say, well, actually, this is something I need to think about. And in that case, you will objection handle, right? But I would say this is the second most important piece of your sales call. And making sure you have the right structure and the right pacing when you are closing somebody is so huge. Because listen, sometimes it is nerve-wracking to spend $5,000 or $10,000. If you get an ounce of commission breath in the last 10 minutes of this call, you will lose a deal. And so you need to follow this line by line. Number 1 is questions. And you want to exhaust all questions and keep your answers short, sweet, and straight to the point. Number 2 is you want to get alignment to slow the conversation down and remind the prospect why they are about to spend $40,000 or $10,000 or whatever it is. And then number 3 is we want to value stack the price drop. It makes it a lot more digestible to accept such a high ticket price. After we value stack the ticket drop, we stay silent. Once the prospect says, all right, well, $10,000, okay, we assume the close. Cool. Next steps are simple. Let's get you logged in and marching forward. Now leave a comment below if that made sense to you, if you have any questions on that, or if you would like me to dive deeper into this, which I could do on a separate video, and I will jump into objection handling next. All right, let's dive into it and break down objection handling. If you have seen any other sales trainers or salespeople on YouTube, I think 99% of people overcomplicate objection handling. They try to trick you into believing that you need to understand these question stacks and analogies and special stories that you are going to tell, or this neural linguistic programming that is going to mindfuck your prospect into buying. And it is just not true. To be quite frank with you, it is probably because they want you to buy whatever it is that you have from them and make you believe that they understand some special way to tap into people's psyche that you don't. When realistically, all objection handling is asking good questions in discovery to build rapport, to build yourself as an authority, and to find out where the prospect wants to go and what is stopping them from getting there. That way, when you get to the end of the call and they give you an objection, you could tell the prospect, hey, listen, I hear you, but you're wrong, and here is why. Basically saying like, hey man, based off what you told me, here is my bullet. You were wrong because your words told me differently earlier, and here is why. So again, instead of memorizing these, objection handling frameworks and question stacks or analogies, just build your skill set by mastering discovery and asking tactical questions that build rapport. That way, when an objection comes up, you could say, I hear you, but you are wrong, and here is why. Now, my 2-step method for the Revolver method for objection handling is simple. Number 1 is we are going to ask 5 pre-handle questions. technically 6. And number 2, at the end of the sales call, if an objection comes up in the first place, ideally it shouldn't because we pre-handled them, you will ask 3 more questions before firing your bullet. So to dive deeper, your pre-handled questions load bullets. At the end of the call, once you receive the objection, you fire the bullet. And when it comes to loading your bullets, there are a couple important keys. Number 1 is to ask these 5 or technically 6 closing questions during discovery. And number 2 is these questions are not effective with a bad discovery. You need to find out where the prospect wants to go and what is stopping them from getting there, or else this will not work. And so that is why, if you remember me saying earlier in the call, having a good discovery is the most important piece of your sales call. Now, the pre-handled questions that I ask are super simple, and you probably remember me talking about this earlier on. But number 1 is timing. Number 2 is commitment. Number 3 is solution. Number 4 is partner. Number 5 is time available. And number 6 is finances if needed. Most offers that I have ever sold pre-qualify leads with finances before they speak with me on the sales call. So I never have to dive into this that much, but when I pre-handle these objections, it goes a little bit something like this. I always do it at the end of discovery. So first, I'm going to ask very good tactical questions that build rapport and build me as an authority to find out where the prospect wants to go and what is stopping them from getting there. And then at the end of discovery, I am going to wrap it up by asking these closing questions. And number 1 is timing. So I will literally ask the prospect, hey, Mr. Prospect, so how soon are you looking to solve this problem? And this is to prevent them saying at the end of the call, hey man, $10,000 is a lot. Let me come back to this a month or 2 from now. Now, as long as you do a good job in discovery and figure out how this problem is affecting their business or current life, they will always say, listen, I want to solve it as soon as possible. And then we will move on to number 2, which is commitment. Now, with commitment, we just want to prevent the, listen, this sounds cool, but I think I am going to focus on this instead. Or maybe you are selling something B2C and they say, listen, this business model sounds cool, but I am actually looking at e-commerce right now and I think I am just going to, check that out and commit to that instead. So instead of waiting until we receive that at the end of the call and then we are fighting an uphill battle after we drop price and we are basically fighting and scrambling to get the close. Let's get commitment during discovery simply by asking after timing. Okay, beautiful. So I am glad you want to fix this as soon as possible. Now let me know. We could definitely help you. But is this something that you are ready to commit to for yourself? And usually the way I will say it is like, hey, working with our team is a lot like hiring a personal trainer for the gym. We could write out your meal plan and tell you exactly what to do at the gym, but we still need you to commit to it yourself. Is this something that you are ready to commit to? Obviously, I am looking for a yes. If they say no, it is a red flag and they are not going to buy in the first place. Now from there, I am moving on to the solution. Once they tell me, yes, Rafa, hell yes, I am committed, I will say, awesome. And reason why I am asking that is because we could definitely help you reach that goal and solve that problem as long as we can. Would you be ready to move forward today? I'm not going to say tomorrow. I'm not going to say, are you ready to take a step forward at some point? I am going to say, hey, as long as we could get you there, would you be ready to move forward and buy today? Now, once I get that whoop, yeah, man, if you could get me to $10,000 a month and help me get out of my job, I would be ready to buy today. I will move on to question number 4, which is partner. You don't always need to ask this question. It just depends what you're selling, but sometimes you do want to pre-handle the partner objection. For example, if you are selling a fitness offer to moms, there is a safe bet that, sometimes the husband is involved in helping her pay for this thing. Or biggest example is B2B. 90% of the time, if you are selling a B2B offer, you need the business partner on the phone. And so at this point, this is where I will ask the partner objection. And then once they say, yes, I would be ready to move forward today, I am going to follow up with, beautiful. By the way, does anyone else need to be involved here to make a decision, like a business partner, husband, wife, and so forth? That way, I don't receive that objection at the end of the sales call. We are basically trying to plant seeds and pre-handle these things from coming up in the first place. And finally, we have number 5, which is time. Meaning, once they say, no, I can make this decision on my own, I'm going to say, by the way, how much time do you have to dedicate towards a solution? And remember what I told you earlier, don't give them the time. Ask them the time. The last thing I'm going to say is, by the way, we need 10 hours a week from you. Is that doable? Because all you're doing is setting yourself up for a no. Instead, I will ask it open-ended. And by the way, how much time do you have to dedicate towards XYZ thing? And once they tell me 10 hours per week, I am going to say, Beautiful. We are only looking for 1 hour per day. So it sounds like that is doable for you, correct? You guys, I have created this because I have received hundreds of objections that all revolve around these 6 things. Now, you may be saying like, hey, Rafa, what about finances? And that depends on your offer. If you're on a good offer, they are going to qualify finances for you. So you don't need to stress about that. But hey, maybe you are on an offer where, you do need to qualify for finances, or maybe you are on an offer where your past 5 sales calls have all been unqualified people that can't afford what it is that you are buying. That is a perfect sign that you need to include the finance pre-handle as you are loading your bullets in discovery. Now, an honorable mention that I always like to include is the yes, no, or maybe frame. So if you remember, we have discovery, we have transition, and then we have pitching. The yes, no, or maybe frame, I keep it in between transition and pitching. I am honestly surprised. I have shared this with tons of people and how much this has helped other people with their sales calls with getting more yeses. I know it worked for me, but whenever I share it with other people and it works for them, I am like, that is interesting. So the yes, no, or maybe frame, the reason why you use it is because, hey, if you don't want to hear maybe, or I need to think about it, how about we just ask the prospect and let them know? I don't want to hear that at the end of the sales call. And so the way that I do that is directly after transition. Once I say, we could definitely help you with XYZ goal and solve X problem. Could I share how we are going to do that? And they tell me yes. That is when I use the yes, no, or maybe frame. I will say, awesome, Mr. Prospect. Well, listen, by the way, I know at the end of the call, there are a few things that you could say. Either Rafa, hell yes, let's do this. Or no, which I want you to know I am 100% okay with a no. The one I do want to avoid are those in-between answers. Let me talk with my dog about it. Let me think about it. So is it okay to keep it between a yes or a no? As long as you frame the question correctly, you will never have somebody that says, no, man, I can't give you a yes or no by the end of the call. Now, this isn't foolproof because, listen, you guys, sometimes you will tell them it is $20,000 and they will be like, God, I didn't know it was that expensive. And the next thing you know, they want to think about it still, but the whole point of this is to do our best to prevent every single objection from coming up in the first place. And I can't tell you how many times I have been on sales calls where I get to the end, I drop price, I say, let's move forward. And they say, listen, Rafa, I am usually the type that wants to think about things, but I know you told me that you want a yes or a no at the end of the call. So let's dive into it. Let's do it. All right, now we are moving on to step 2, which is what do we do if we pre-handle every objection and we do it perfectly, yet an objection still comes up at the end of the call? So I broke this up into 2 steps for you. Step number 1 is once an objection occurs, ask these 3 questions. And once you get the answers to those questions, go ahead and fire your bullet. Now you may be saying like, Rafa, what is the bullet, right? The bullet is using their own language against them because you asked that question already to prevent the objection in the first place. So if somebody says, I really need to speak with my wife, you could say, listen, man, I asked you 20 minutes ago, you told me you didn't need to speak with the wife, so let me know what changed. Or if someone tells you, hey man, I love everything that you broke down, but I am not going to have enough time for this. You could say, hey, I hear you, but I asked you if you had 1 hour per day, like 10 minutes ago, and you said that was totally fine. You actually told me you had 10 hours per week. So 2 hours per day, Monday through Friday, that you could dedicate towards this. So what changed, right? So the 3 questions that you ask, it goes a little something like this. The reason why you ask question number 1 is because the first objection that somebody gives you is always a smokescreen, meaning it is not the real objection. And so you need to pierce that and uncover what the real objection is behind it. Meaning, I need to think about it is not the real objection. The objection is behind that. There is something that they need to think about or that they are afraid of that we need to find out. And so whenever you receive an objection, step number 1 is to get past the smoke screen. And you will do that by simply asking, okay, well, listen, man, that is fine. Thinking about it aside, do you feel like this could actually get you to XYZ goal and solve X problem? So again, we are going to remind the prospect why they are here on the call in the first place. Once they say yes, because we already got alignment earlier on when we were closing, we are going to follow up with why. Okay, so just so I know, why do you feel like this will help you so much? Just so I have a good understanding. Let's get the prospect to resell themselves on the path and the product that they are about to purchase. Yeah, so listen, Rafa, I really like everything you guys have to deliver. I saw the testimonials, I saw everything that you include, and I do feel like it will help me at the end of the day. And then I will move on to number 3, which is rebringing up the objection that they told me. I will say, okay, so listen, I am glad that you feel like it will help you. That is most important. So when you say you need to think about it, what is coming up for you just to see if I could help? This is when they will give you the real objection. Maybe they will say, listen, it is just really expensive. Or they will say, listen, I am just afraid to move forward. Or maybe I feel like I just don't have enough time to implement this stuff in the first place. Now we have the real objection and we could work with that. So again, whenever you receive an objection, we want to hit these 3 questions. Number 1 is to remind the prospect why they are on the call in the first place. Number 2 is we are going to ask them why are they so convicted that this will help them reach X, YC goal and solve X problem. And then number 3 is we are going to rebring up the objection and ask them what is coming up. What do you mean by that? Just to see if I could help. And then from there, we are going to handle the real objection that they gave. Now, when it comes to firing your bullet and labeling the real problem and closing, but I do want to talk about these couple key things. Number 1 is to humanize your interaction. Don't be an asshole. Don't have commission breath. Don't, put the sales hat on. Number 2 is after you shoot your bullet, you sit in silence. First one to speak loses, right? So once they say like, hey man, listen, I don't think I could afford this. And you follow up with, well, listen, bro, you told me you had $30,000 saved and this is just a fraction of that. So, let me know where am I going wrong. You stay silent and the first one to speak loses. Number 3 is to relabel the problem and go for the close. So once they say, yeah, you are right, like I have the money, let's relabel their problem. Okay, so it seems like you have the money, let me know. Is it more so a case of like maybe you just kind of being afraid of spending $5,000, $10,000 on something? Yeah, exactly. That is what it is. And then we go for the close. Now that we have covered the full structure of a sales call and every single piece within the call, what to say and what to follow within your sales calls, let's dive into how to find a sales role. Now, before I do that, I do want to break down the different types of sales opportunities that you have, meaning the positions you could go into. That way, you fully understand what is the best fit for you. Now, realistically, in any high-ticket sales role, you really have 3 options for yourself. You could go in as an SDR, as a closer, or as a sales manager. Now, obviously, for you to become a sales manager, it is going to take a couple years of experience and quite frankly, some management experience to go and land a sales management role with 0 experience. Now, maybe you are watching this and you're like, hey, Rafa, I have a sales management role and I didn't have much experience. I could guarantee it is not a good sales management role, okay? Because if you are managing a good sales team, you are making upwards of $40,000 per month between your base salary plus revenue share of what the closers are earning on the sales floor. So yes, you heard me right. The typical pay structure for a sales manager usually is something like a $10,000 or $15,000 base salary, sometimes a little bit more, but usually around $10,000 or $15,000. And the rest of your income comes from revenue share on cash collected. Meaning, kind of the typical structure you will see is 5% revenue share of cash collected. So as a sales manager, if you have 4 closers and each of them collected $100,000 that month, that means the entire sales team collected $400,000 and you're getting 5% of that, which would be $20,000 in additional income on top of your base salary. Now, once you are on a really good offer, typically the sales team is collecting well over $1 million every single month. So you could see pretty quickly like what the line of progression looks like for you in sales. And hey, if you're managing a pretty big sales team of 6, 7, 8 people and the company is making over $1 million per month, you could very well get your income to $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 per month just by managing your sales team. Now let's break down the difference of an SDR and a closer. That way you understand 1, the difference, but number 2, the direction you should go. So the way I do look at sales is the purpose of selling isn't to be a sales guy for the rest of your life. It is to make as much money as humanly possible in a short period of time and build skill set. That way you could take the money and reinvest back into yourself to get out of sales. Now, most companies that you go to for remote sales don't have a BDR sales position. It is either SDR or closer. By the way, BDR stands for Business Development Representative, just so you know. Be willing to eat shit for just a couple of months. That way, you could build the skill set of sales before you get moved up to a closer. And listen, when I say eat shit, it is not too bad. You can be earning, anywhere from $5,000 to like $8,000 a month as an SDR in a sales team, which is pretty baseline for most sales roles. So you have those 2 options. Now, maybe you are asking like, Rafa, which direction should I go? I understand the 2 pathways, but what would you pick at the end of the day? I know damn well for myself, I never thought I would be a sales guy. And so if I didn't have a good experience with sales, who knows? I probably wouldn't be here talking about sales in the first place. I probably would have quit within a couple of weeks in. And so I would recommend for you, if you are brand new into sales, hey, give yourself a good experience, build a good resume, get good training. And at the end of the day, being an SDR builds the foundational skills that you need to close. But the funny thing with that is that most times what seems like the long route is actually the shortest path for you to reach your goals. So you may be thinking, hey, if I just skip setting entirely, I would actually speed run my way to making $20,000 per month as a closer. But I truly don't believe that. I think if anything, you are going to extend your pathway because you are going to be working for really bad companies compared to taking what seems like the long way. Go land a really good role at a good company as an SDR. If you put the work in, you will probably beat me and become a closer within 3 or 4 months. And by the time you get promoted, you will be at a good company that has earning potential. And you will also have the foundational skill set to crush it and close right away. I will tell you right now, the skills that I learned as a setter and a closer in my first offers is what allowed me to go to way better teams and become the top earning closer literally within 30 days. I mean, it was honestly pretty crazy. You know, the skill set that I learned, especially as a setter, taught me grit and determination. It taught me the ins and outs of doing the dirty work and doing the extra stuff that it takes to become a top performing closer. If you are closing right now and you have earned $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 per month, I could guarantee that you will agree with me that a lot more goes into it besides shutting up and taking sales calls. It is the following up with no shows or reschedules and getting them back on your calendar and getting those deals closed that put you at those bigger numbers. And so if you are new to sales, always start as an SDR and progress your way into closing. If you have over a year of sales experience already, then you could go straight into closing. Now, the only thing I will tell you if you are going straight into closing is that you need to be prepared to do a mock call on your interview. Every single company that will be worth your time to start closing at where you could earn 10, 15, 20,000 right away. They usually have a two-step interview process, meaning step one is just an introduction where the sales manager will ask you questions and get to know you and see if they like you. And then what they will say at the end of that 30-minute meeting is, beautiful, Rafa, let's book another meeting for Friday. Here is our sales script. Let's do a mock call on intro, discovery, and pitching. And so if you have never conducted a full sales call before, you do not want that to be your first time because you are going to look like an idiot and not land the job. And so for anybody who is going straight into closing and everybody that comes in with door-to-door experience or car sales experience, what I focus on is, okay, bro, you could go straight into closing, but we need to get at least 15 mock calls done before you start applying to jobs. Because if not, and the first time you ever do a mock call is when they give you that sales script, you are going to do a horrible job and you won't get hired. Okay, so the next thing I want to touch on is how to break into sales and be able to commit to this full time. Because let's be real, when I first got into sales, as I adjust this, I had bills to pay, I had rent. And I wasn't a 19, 17-year-old kid with no responsibilities that could just quit everything and dive into sales and hope everything works out. And so what I did for you was created a framework that breaks down the exact pathway to take if you are looking at breaking a remote high-ticket sales full-time. So it starts at the top here with breaking into sales. And there are two types of people that are trying to break into sales and be able to do it full-time and make a full-time income with this. Number one is a person who is able to take risks. Meaning somebody who has at least 6 months of income saved up for any bills or emergencies that come up. I'll be real with you. I know for me, when I got into sales, I had a couple thousand saved. And so that did not apply to me. Now, the second type of person is somebody who needs to keep their 9 to 5, which is me, right? So we will touch on this because this is really simple to go over. If you are able to take the risk, if you have 6 months of income saved, and this is something that you are committed to, just take the risk and work for a well-established company. Meaning, hey, if you have that 6 months at least of income, if not more, go ahead and quit your job and commit full-time to sales. But make sure you go to a well-established company that is already making $200,000 per month cash collected for their sales team and ideally a lot more. Now, if not, then you are someone who was like me. When I first got into sales, I needed to keep my 9 to 5. There was no way in hell that I was just going to hope things worked out with sales and put myself and my family at risk. And so I had to keep my 9 to 5. So I had two options. Number one is I could put my life on pause and continue working the job and save 4 to 6 months of living expenses and then quit my job and go all in. Or was option 2. Quite frankly, I would never do option 1. Okay, if you have this goal with remote sales, why are we going to put it off another 6 months? Like, just commit to it and figure it out now. And so option 2 was to go part-time with sales and then save my full-time job and work that on the side. Now, you may be asking, hey, Rafa, like, do sales roles ever allow you to go part-time? And they do. You just need to find the right one. And you also need to be good at speaking with your sales manager. Listen, 99% of the time, your sales manager that you are speaking with is a grown-ass adult. They have a family and they have kids. If the sales manager likes you and they already want to hire you because they already gave you the job offer, that is the key. Receive the job offer first and you let them know like a grown adult. Hey man, I have a lot of responsibilities. I am 1,000% committed. I just need 30 days. Let me grind this out. I will work 24 hours a day if I need to, but I want to make that first check first before I quit my job just so I don't put my family in a bad spot. You will never get a no. And that is exactly what I did. And that is exactly how I direct people in my group. From there, we have 2 tips. Once again, you want to work for a well-established company that is already making $200,000 per month. That way, you could transition out of your full-time job quickly. And so that, you will make money on the roll. And number 2 is to always do and say what is needed to land the interview. Listen, a lot of these sales roles and good companies are going to tell you that you need sales experience. That doesn't mean that if you don't have experience, you don't apply. You still should. But what you want to do is frame your past work experience and relate it to the sales role that you are applying to. Because as long as you could have a good conversation on an interview and sell yourself as to why you deserve the job, it doesn't matter about your sales experience. You want the sales manager to buy into you as a human being. And if they do, they will hire you. Now, this also goes for Loom videos. If anyone here, if you have ever applied to a sales role before, most companies don't ask for resumes anymore. They ask you to film a 60-second Loom video breaking down who you are, where you are from, your past experience, and why we should hire you in the first place. And so essentially what you will see once you apply to a company on their website maybe will be a prompt. It says, answer this question in a 30 to 60-second Loom video and paste the link here. And so just like on your resume, you also want to do and say what is needed in a Loom video to land that interview. That does not mean we lie and say that we have 10 years of sales experience when we are brand new into the space. It means that we are personable and frame our past life experience or work experience in a way that gets the sales manager to buy into us as a human being. Now, once again, the way that I am breaking this down is for the people that need to keep their 9 to 5 when breaking into sales. The best path to take is to keep your full-time job, plus take a part-time remote sales role, do it for a month, get your prove it check, and then quit the job and go all in. Now, the 2 tips with that is that you want to work for a well-established company and you also want to do and say what is needed to land the interview. Now, once you are in the interview, you need to logically explain why you need to keep your full-time job. And as long as you explain it in a good way, they will respect it. And number 2 is you need to sell yourself by saying things like, hey, I will outwork everyone. I have bought sales programs or communities, and by the way, I am willing to go full-time with this role. Just within the next 30 to 60 days, let me get that first full-time check and I will go all in. Remember, people will buy into you as a human being and that is what you want. Now, finally, after your first Prove It month, go all in. Now, remember, if you are an international high-ticket closer looking to improve your English to work in the US and make a shit ton of money, book a call with me using the link on the description or send me a DM on Instagram. I would love to help you out. Believe it or not, there are better ways to find high-ticket sales jobs other than spamming copy and paste DMs on Instagram. I know there are far more effective ways to finding these jobs. After hearing the methods I share in this video, you will be asking yourself, why didn't I think of these methods before? And this won't just cover how to find the business owners, but also how to properly reach out to them. And if you just implement one of these strategies, I guarantee you will find a sales role within the next 2 weeks. Now, before we start applying to these roles, we must first create a list of different businesses that we should apply to. And honestly, there are a ton of places where you could find these business owners to sell for. But I am just going to share my favorite 2 right now just to simplify everything. Now, strategy number 1, Facebook ad library. The top dogs in the industry are spending a ton of money daily on ads. Let's say, for example, I want to work for a fitness offer. I would search up facebook.com/ads/library and add in the filter section fitness coaching. Within 30 seconds, I will have a list of 20 companies that are spending money on ads to scale their business. Now add those companies to your list. You guys, very few people are actually tapping into this method. It is really as simple as going to the ad library and searching the niche that you are interested in selling in. And yes, you could search fitness mentorship, fitness coaching, Airbnb coaching, real estate mentorship. If there is a niche, there is somebody with a business selling something for it. Now, take those companies and once again, add them to your list. And in most cases, these companies in Facebook ad library are making so much money and spending so much money that if you go on their website, there is a page to go and apply as a sales rep. So make sure you dig a little bit. Now, before we continue, you do need to keep track of all the businesses you find plus the businesses you apply to. Reason being, if you are just throwing darts at the wall and hoping something will stick, you will lose opportunities. There are a lot of sales roles that are literally life-changing opportunities. So to make it easier for you, I am going to add a downloadable file somewhere in the description. It will be free. There is no paywall. Just so that you could track all these businesses that you find that you plan on applying to make it easier for you. Now, strategy number 2, find the top performing groups on Skool. Skool is Sam Oven's company. You may have heard of it. Ideally, what you could do is use the Discover Community section in Skool to find paid groups that offer a high-ticket product or service. And here's a side note, you guys. Make sure you pay attention whether the group says paid or free. You don't want to go contact and waste your time contacting the free groups. Let's look for the paid ones only. And the groups that say a low ticket price, like maybe $20 a month, it is really a 50-50 shot if they have a high ticket offer. It is still worth reaching out to them, but just keep that in mind. What you can do is cross-reference those low ticket groups with Instagram just to see if they have some type of offer or funnel, or they are selling something that is more expensive. Remember, high ticket means the product is at least $2,000. For me, one of the best ways that I find out if a low ticket group on Skool actually has a high ticket offer is by looking at their Instagram, seeing if they have a link that leads to a landing page, and if there is an area on that landing page where they could book a call, meaning a prospect who is interested in what they are selling. That always means that there is a sales rep on the other side of that call that is taking payment, closing the deal, and making a lot of money from the offer. Let's talk about outreach. So I always recommend when you apply to a company, let's say you applied through their website, search that company up on LinkedIn. And once you do that, you will get a list on LinkedIn of different people who are working for that company. On top of that, it will also tell you the different roles that they have in the company. Let's find the sales manager, let's find closers, setters on the team, and shoot them a DM on Instagram. And here is the exact script that you could use when you send them a DM. Hey, sales manager name. I just applied to X company and I am super excited to hear back from you and see what next steps look like. That is it. But you do want to cover all of your angles. So once again, any company that you apply to, let's say through their website, search that company up on LinkedIn. Get the list of different people who are working for that company and send the people in charge of sales a quick DM. Now let's talk about a separate form of outreach. How do we contact companies that we want to work for, but they don't have an application page on their website? AKA, how the hell do I do cold outreach? Now let me tell you guys a story. So you guys are obviously watching this video, and recently I have probably received 30 to 40 DMs of different people who are asking to video edit for me, write me scripts, help me with YouTube, help me with content, and so forth. And they all say the same thing. Hey Rafa, my name is such and I could help you with XYZ. Send me a DM and we could hop on a call. Basically, they are saying, hey, I have something to sell you, which is cool and I respect that, but it doesn't create any urgency for me to respond. Now, out of those 20 or 30 DMs I received, there was one guy who sent me something different. What he told me was, hey Rafa, I created this document for you of 15 different YouTube titles that you could use for your next video. If you like them, go ahead and use them and let me know what you think. I remember I thought to myself, hell yeah, that is cool and that is actually helpful. And I intuitively responded right away. I didn't even think about it. I ended up jumping with this guy on a call and having an hour-long conversation about YouTube. And after that, I was thinking backwards to how the hell could a sales rep contact a business via cold DM outreach to land a job? When you think about it, everybody is probably saying the same stuff, you guys. Hey, my name is Rafa. I am a setter. I could help you sell things for your company. Let me know if you guys are hiring. And that is just not going to work. So luckily for you, I created 2 different methods that you could use for doing cold DM outreach to land a sales role. Now, method number 1 is the work for free method. What you're going to do is send a DM to whatever company or influencer you want to work for and say this. Hey Rafa, I love what you do, and I have heard great things about your company and wanted to let you know that I would love to come into your company and work for free by setting all of your old leads that you have in your pipeline. Now, hear me out, you guys. No company will have you work for free. But even myself, who has been a sales manager before, would see that DM and say, I like that. This guy seems hungry, he seems motivated, and it seems like he is serious about what he wants to do. Let's bring him on for an interview. Smart, right? Now, method number 2 is even more untapped. It just takes a little bit more time. Now, hear me out, you guys, because at the end of the day, if you land a 10 out of 10 sales role, this is something that will change your life. So what you're going to do is find an online coach or an online business, an online mentorship that has something in their bio like DM me help to get started. What you're going to do is send a DM to the person saying that keyword. From there, they will start a conversation with you in the DMs to try and book you onto a call. That way, they could sell you into their business. Now, usually what they will do is send you a booking link, take that booking link and save it in your notes. Now, what I want you to do is go through the influencer or online business's Instagram following and followers and start doing some cold outreach. Think back to the conversation that they had with you when you DM'd them help and replicate that to try and set people for a call. Once you get 2 or 3 people to book a call for that influencer, send them another DM and let them know, hey, I just booked 3 calls for you. Here are their names. Let me know how the calls go. If you do that, they will bring you on the team. Why the hell wouldn't they? You just made them money. Now, once again, yes, it may take a couple extra minutes, maybe a day or 2 to get those 2 or 3 sets, but it will be worth it in the end. Listen, man, it is not all about, finding a sales role, but the way I put it is 50% of you making the income that you want with sales is based off the vehicle and the opportunity that you are in. So I want to make sure for anybody that is learning or training or trying to become the best sales rep possible with me, they have everything that they need to land a sales role, whether it is today or whether it is a year from now. Now remember, if you are an international high-ticket closer looking to improve your English to work in the US and make a shit ton of money, book a call with me using the link on the description or send me a DM on Instagram. I would love to help you out. Now that you have your list of businesses to apply to, it is time to talk about how the hell do I apply? Outreach, building your resume, and applying on their website. So for your resume, it really takes less than 30 minutes to create one, and I just use some type of free resume builder online. I mean, all you got to do is Google free resume builder and something will pop up for you. It does improve your chances with getting hired, and if you apply to a really big company like Gym Launch, they will ask for a resume. So what I am going to do for you is show you the exact resume that you can use to get hired to legit companies with 0 sales experience. That way you could just copy me, but reiterate it to the best of your ability. You should take your prior work history and just compare it to how it relates to sales. So for example, I worked in a restaurant as a server and a bartender. And I could have added as one of my bullet points, I clean tables and wash dishes. But instead, I added things like, I learned essential salesman skills such as public speaking and customer care. Or I became versed in upselling techniques which increased my overall sales per customer. All right, so now that we figured out how to build your resume, as I mentioned in the video before, I should have, 90% of companies these days don't even care about your resume when it comes to high ticket sales. Most of them judge you based off your application that you fill out. And the big thing is a Loom video that you film for the application. Now, of course, if you have some good experience or any type of sales experience, even if it is door-to-door or retail sales and you have a LinkedIn created already, it is, not going to hurt you to add it. So I would still add it as long as you have it. Whenever you get asked on an interview or a Loom video or an application, why are you interested in the company? The best answer to put is you showing conviction in the product and the offer that they have to sell. Okay, that is always the best answer. Sales managers always want to hire salespeople who already have belief in the product or service that we are selling. Listen, I could teach sales skills. I can teach conviction. And conviction is the most important piece as a salesperson in order to succeed as a closer, right? You may have heard me say this before, but hey, confident closers need no structure. And if you have confidence in yourself and confidence in the product that you are selling, you have already won 60 to 70% of the battle. On the flip side, if you have the most perfect sales call structure and experience in the world, but you don't believe shit in the product that you are selling, it is very hard to close at a high level and close deals consistently every single day. So the best answer to put for something like, why are you interested in working with our company, is showing conviction in the offer, right? So something like, hey, I have done a ton of research on what you guys do. I am super convicted in selling in the stock market, and I have seen the testimonials. I am super aligned with what it is that you guys have to offer, and I am very convicted in the product that you have to sell. Right now, obviously, I summarize that, and you could use something like ChatGPT to clean it up and make it sound more professional. But the high-level overview is whenever you get asked on an interview or a Loom video or an application, why do you want to work for us, and why are you interested in working with our company? It is always best to share that you have a strong belief in the product, the service, you align with the vision, and you want to take it to the next level with them. Now we are looking at number 2. Where are you currently working, and why are you looking to leave? The best answer to put for this is to never talk shit on your ex. Right? I always think sales is very much related to dating. And maybe you have been on a date before with a girl or a guy or whatever it is, and they start talking shit on their ex and how they cheated, and they are a piece of shit. I'm sorry for cussing, but the first thing that comes to mind for me is like, is it really your ex or was it you, right? What I always say, if they say, hey, why do you want to leave the company? I usually say, actually, I don't, But hey, this came across my desk and I took a lot of look into you guys. I do want to go to a place where I could continue growing, and I feel like what you guys do here aligns with me more than the current company that I am working with. Put it this way. Girls and guys, when you are dating, they always want to be with the person who has a lot of options. And so the last thing I'm going to do is frame myself as somebody who is desperate or things are going horribly wrong with my company. If anything, I am going to tell them, actually, I am kind of happy here. I am not really looking to leave, but I love what you guys have going on. So I really want to hear it out and see if this is a better opportunity for me. Trust me, the sales manager will want you even more, considering the fact that you have other options and you are not sitting here desperate for a sales role. Now let's move on to the next point. What excites you most about this opportunity? I would add the same, put something regarding conviction and how much you believe in the offer and the industry and what they have to sell and how you want to take the company to the moon and things along those terms. Conviction is the best thing to put. Now, sales experience, how many years of high-ticket closing experience do you have? If you have experience, obviously add it. If you don't, take your past work experience and frame it to how it relates to sales, So if I have restaurant work, door-to-door, and retail sales experience, I am going to put that I have X amount of years in sales experience from various industries like retail sales, in-person sales, and door-to-door, right? I am going to frame my experience well and not put that I am brand new into the space and don't know shit about closing, right? Because that will be an automatic red flag for some companies, especially a team like this where closers are earning, a really good amount of money. So a saying that I always tell people on Loom videos, on interviews, on applications, make your bad sound really good. Don't make your bad sound horrible. Nobody wants to hire a piece of work. And obviously, if you're brand new to sales with literally nothing, you have never done anything that relates to sales at all, and you can't relate any past experience at all, which isn't many people, surprisingly. Even the young guys that I have worked with in the past that are 17 or 18 have worked at a gym before where they are selling gym memberships, and we frame that really well to sales, and they land a role easily. But if you have literally nothing, that is even more of a reason why you should go into an SDR opportunity that is completely entry level, right? If you have zero sales experience and you try to apply to this role right now for an account executive for this really big company, they are probably going to deny you. Now, describe the typical sales cycle that you have worked in. And obviously, this is a very established role, so they just want you to really break down, the sales cycle I worked with were always one call closes, 45-minute close calls. This is how it worked. This was the ticket price and so forth. Now, your proudest achievement, sales achievement to date, that is self-explanatory. You could talk about the very first deal that you closed. I think the best thing to put for this are client results that you have seen from the sales that you have made. And this doesn't mean you need to make it up, right? But sales managers always love somebody who is bought in for a bigger reason other than selling and making good money and commission checks. And so for me, if I were to put this an answer here, I wouldn't frame my biggest cash collected month and so forth. I would probably say, my proudest sales achievement was seeing the client results from the people that I closed and seeing how they changed their life through the product that I was selling. Now, again, I am speed running this. I am going to go over how to make a perfect Loom video right after this. What makes you an exceptional closer? The best thing to put for a question like this is grit and determination. And it goes back to something similar, is conviction. I could teach sales skills, I can't teach hunger and drive. And so the best thing to put on a question like this, like why should we hire you or what makes you an exceptional closer, is basically you explaining why you have so much drive and how you will outwork everybody else on the sales team. And again, I am giving you summaries. Of course, you want to make your answers sound a bit more professional. Thank goodness we have stuff like AI and ChatGPT, because that could really shortcut the process for you. But I would definitely put for what makes me an exceptional closer, the fact that I am willing to outwork everybody on the team. I will take more calls than everybody. I will work 7 days a week. On top of that, I am always constantly learning and hungry to learn more. Now, as far as availability, even if do and say what is needed to get brought onto the interview once again, right? So even if you can't work full-time, I would mark full-time for something like this and then just explain your case on the interview. Meaning, if you have a full-time job or a child and different things going on, say that stuff on an interview when you are speaking face to face with the sales manager and he is actually able to meet you as a human being. Because remember, people always make decisions emotionally and then they compensate logically. You never know. A lot of sales managers may say they don't want to hire somebody unless they go full time. But then when they meet you and they hear your story and they see how hungry you are and they feel, hey, I actually feel like this guy will learn really quick and absolutely crush it on our team, they will be willing to make any exception to get you to go onto their team. Because if they hire the right person as a sales manager, you look good, right? And so sales managers are inclined to bring the best people, the hardest workers, the fastest learners, even if that means they have a full-time job on the side or something else going on. Because, hey, if you do well, they do well, everyone does well, and they look good and make more money as sales managers. So again, for something like availability on this, even if you can't do full-time, I would mark it as full-time and explain your case in the interview. Now, this is a bit of a random question that not many sales teams ask, but would you prefer a smaller team with higher upside or a larger structured team? For high ticket sales, I would recommend a smaller team because that is usually what you're going into. And small just means less than 100 sales reps, right? Like, obviously, if you go to Boeing as a salesperson, there may be 1,000-person sales team. If you do something like high ticket sales, at most, you may be a part of a 30-person sales team, which is still considered really small when you look at the global scheme of sales. So I would definitely mark a smaller team. Are you open to commission-only roles? They asking this question because they are commission-only. So obviously mark yes. And again, you guys, whenever you are looking at application questions, the way I always think about it is, what would a sales manager want to hear? So when I am typing out my answers, I always think backwards. What would sound good for the sales manager who is reading through my answers? So a perfect example of this is like the availability question. Hey, of course, if they are asking this question, it is because they want to see you mark full-time. And that is what is going to sound good to a sales manager. Therefore, I'm going to do and say what is needed on this application to get brought into an interview. Now, optional but highly recommended, upload a sales call recording. If you have one, upload a good one, a 1-1 where you close the deal. And if you don't have one, I would always recommend uploading a mock call. Right now, a mock call is simply just a role play. So a fake sales call that you do with a friend, a family member, and so forth over Zoom. You record it and then you edit it. That way, it looks like a real sales call. Again, that doesn't mean we lie and say it is a real sales call for some huge offer you were a part of. If they ask on the interview, tell them actually that was a mock call, but 99% of the time they won't ask. And if they are asking this question for you to upload a call recording, I would definitely do it because it is only going to help you at the end of the day. And so if you don't have a call recording, get a mock call filmed from top to bottom, intro, frame, discovery, transition, pitching, and closing. And then edit out any pieces like the beginning or the end where you could clearly tell it is a mock call. Now, lastly, paste a Loom video, a 1 to 3 minute Loom video explaining your sales style and your biggest influence. Now, this is the moneymaker. This is how you will get pulled into an interview. interview. 99% of the time as a sales manager, I could tell you I don't even read through this stuff, okay? I just go straight to the Loom video and click on it and, make my decision if I should bring you in for an interview based off the Loom. And I could guarantee that is how most sales managers do it as well. They may glance at this stuff, maybe like the important questions like full-time and what does your sales experience look like. But they are pretty much going to skim through it because they have a ton of applications and then go straight to the Loom video, click on the Loom and watch that and make their decision from there. So that is why it is so important to have a killer Loom video. So you could say something like this. All right, team, what's going on? My name is Rafa Segovia and I am applying for the closing role over at Super Agency. Now, a little bit of background on myself. I have been in sales for the past 4 years now. At this point, I got my start with sales working for Influencer X. I was a closer there and then transitioned to working for Jimmy Rodriguez at Grow Rich Accelerator. I was a top closer with Hustler Freddy. I collected a little over $2 million in the 2 years that I was with him. Then this past January, started working for Influencer Y, so he offers a real estate mentorship offer. It is very high ticket and, overall, just looking forward to potentially be working with you guys. I have heard great things about the team at Super Agency and I'm excited to hear what next steps will be. So talk soon. Right now, I am going to break down how to build a perfect Loom video here. But a couple key things you can notice is like, hey, number one, presentation does matter. Do you need a background to close deals? No, you could do it in front of a blank wall. But the fact of the matter is, when it comes to a Loom video, they are going to judge you within the first 5 seconds of the call. So if you could find a way to get a nicer looking presentation for yourself for that Loom video, it is only going to help you. Some examples of this, I have filmed Loom videos at parks before. So yes, I brought my laptop to a park, I turned on my hotspot with my cell phone, I sat on a park bench with nice scenery and nice trees and greenery behind me and then filmed the Loom video there, So there are endless options and you could find a way to find a nice aesthetic background for yourself for your Loom video. But with Loom videos, yes, presentation does matter. So if you film that video looking like a mess, your background is a mess, it looks low quality, they are going to judge you and move on to the next applicant. I frame myself as a high quality closer, a high quality salesperson, and I look like I have been there and I have done that before. Now, when it comes to filming a Loom video, here is the perfect Loom video template. There are a couple key takeaways that I will break down with this. Number one is that skill set gaps can be filled through drive and hunger. Right? So again, your skill set gap can be filled by explaining how hungry and how much of a drive you have to succeed and outwork everybody on the sales team. Now, number two is to make your bat sound really, really good. Nobody wants to hire a piece of work. The last thing I am going to say on the Loom video is, I am brand new into sales and I don't really know much about the space. But I feel like I will do well and I have heard great things about your company and I am serious about going this direction. I just made my bad sound bad. Instead, I am going to make my bad sound really good and say something like, yeah, well, listen, I have about 3 years of experience across various industries from retail sales to door-to-door and selling for my own business as well, right? So what I just did with that one line is make my bad sound good. I frame my experience well, and I am doing and saying what is needed to get pulled into that interview. Because I know if I meet with the sales manager face to face, I could talk my ass off and sell my ass off. That way I get him to buy into me emotionally and say, hey, listen, he doesn't have the most experience, but I think he will do really well. Let's give him the shot. Now, let's look at point number 3. Once again, people make decisions emotionally, then compensate logically. So you want to have good energy on your Loom video and smile and show determination because they will absorb that energy and make that emotional decision to where, hey, I like this guy. Let's bring him in for an interview and see what he is all about. Now, number 4 is lighting, presentation, and energy matters most for your Loom, right? So you want to have good lighting. You want to have good presentation. You want to look like the best version of yourself. And on top of that, you want to have good energy. No one wants to watch a Loom video of some boring guy that is, hello, very nice to meet you. My name is Rafa, and so forth. Excited to work with the company. I open up every Loom video by saying the same thing. What is going on, team? Very nice to meet you. My name is Rafa Segovia. I am based out of Malaga, Spain, and here is a little bit about myself. So right away, I am coming in with good energy at the top of that Loom video, and I am carrying that energy throughout the entire video. Now, number 5 is position yourself to be squared up with your camera, and background needs to be clean and professional. So don't use a cell phone and position yourself to be squared up with the camera. Show from your waist up and be positioned square. That way you could still speak with your hands, right? And reason being is it frames you as being more confident. If I was filming YouTube videos for you guys like this, or slouching, or, at a weird angle or position, you would subconsciously absorb that I am not confident in the words that I am saying. Because I position myself to be waist up, where you could see my hands, where you could see me emphasize the things that I am saying. Automatically people feel like, okay, this guy kind of knows what he is talking about. So these are 5 key takeaways that I always include in your Loom video. Now, other important notes that I would add in is before recording yourself, ask yourself, am I showing up the best version of me? Do I look good? Do I feel good? Do I smell good? That way you show up and play good. Now, number 2 is titling your Loom. You always want to title it company name, your name. So here's an example. Closer Accelerator, Rafa. Number 4 is to remove filler words, and likes, and you knows. You know that. And I just said it right now, but that automatically frames you as someone who lacks confidence. So just like your sales calls, you want to remove as many filler words as possible. Because the more eloquent that you speak, and sales is all just talking at the end of the day, the better you sound, the more confident you sound, and the more people buy into you. Number 5 is don't talk yourself out of a sale. And so this is similar to, when I was breaking down the one call close framework, and I said, when somebody asks you questions, say less is more. Don't talk yourself out of a sale. It is the same thing in the Loom videos and same thing in your interviews. You do not want to overshare information and create more questions and talk yourself out of the sale. Number 6, smile. Now, creating a Loom, this is the exact framework that I always follow. Number 1 is introduction, who you are and where you are from. Number 2 is company research. So I always show conviction in the company that you have done research with their offer and letting them know I did a ton of research and I just love what you have going on. Super convicted in what you guys have to do. Number 3 is I dive into relevant experience, meaning I pre-handle the objection of like, hey, does this guy have any experience in the first place? I frame any previous work experience to how it relates to sales. I make my bad sound great, and I emphasize my drive and my hunger when speaking about relevant experience. I am going to give an example of me saying this exact thing right now. Now, number 4 is to answer the prompt if given, right? So some people may just say, introduce yourself, who you are in your past sales experience. Other companies like this one here, they give you a prompt. Explain your sales style and your biggest influence. And so on this 4th section, this is where you're going to answer the prompt. And then number 5 is assume the close by, saying something like, I am super excited to work with your team and I look forward to meeting with you, right? So always assume that they are going to bring you into an interview in the first place. I am not going to end it with, hopefully you guys like me and bring me on for an interview. Instead, I'm going to say, listen, super excited to meet you guys on the next stage and we will chat soon, right? So here is an example of this introduction. What is going on, team? My name is Rafa Segovia. I am from Malaga, Spain. I am super excited to potentially work with you guys. I have done a ton of research into XYZ company and I really believe in the mission and what you guys have going on. Now, as far as my past experience, I have about 6 years of sales experience. I got my start by working at TEFL Institute and then started closing for a fintech named Avery, where I became the top cash collected sales rep ever. And with that, let's go ahead and dive into the question that you guys asked me. Now, what you asked is explain my selling style and my biggest influence. I will start with my biggest influence first. Quite frankly, I would say my biggest influence is my father. My father taught me, he had me at 22, right? So he taught me how to work hard and have insane drive and hunger to force success no matter what it is that I tried. And that is something that I have carried with me from starting business to now being in sales. Now with that, my selling style is A, B, C, X, Y, Z. And this is how I sell. And I am a big advocate for listening and making sure that we could actually help the prospect that we speak with. But that is it for my answer. I am super excited to be working with your team, and I'm really looking forward to meeting you guys on the next stage of the interview. Chat soon. Boom. And that is a Loom video. Right now, obviously, I riffed this. I would have written out an actual answer and really put some thought into my selling style before recording this Loom, but I wanted to break it down for you guys. And one thing you will notice too when I broke down, who is my biggest influence is I said more of like an emotional statement, right? I want them to buy into me as a human being from my energy, from my smile, from the way I talk with my hands to the answers that I give. So I didn't give some blanket answer like, Alex Hormozi is my biggest influence, even though he is a big influence for me. Instead, I said something very real and something real to my heart. And I saw the guy go from having nothing and me literally growing up with him, finding success in his life through hard work and determination. And so I am going to tell that story instead because I want the sales manager to buy into me and say, I like this guy, I like Rafa, let's bring him in for the next stage. But that is it. That is how you make a killer Loom. Now, finally, what we will touch on since I stopped screen sharing is the importance of following up with your applications. Once you apply to a sales role, usually you will get like some type of automatic text or automatic email from their team, right? Just letting you know that we received your application and we will respond back to you in the next couple days. Now, I always follow up with those applications the following day and every single day for the next week. And it is the same thing on interviews. If I interview on a Monday, I am following up by the next day via email or text message, depending on the contact source that I have. And I am doing it every single day for the next week. Now, that doesn't mean we need to be annoying and be like very pressury, as in like, hey, you told me make a decision by Thursday. What is going on? I am just doing a soft follow-up. I am reminding the sales manager that they are top of mind, that this is something that I am serious about, and doing follow-up like any great salesperson would. Funny thing I will say is I know multiple sales teams that literally will not hire you unless you follow up with your interview, which is kind of funny, but it is because they want to see if you have like those small sales skills and if you are really hungry for the sales role. And so if you do an interview or you submit an application, follow up every single day. Just like sales, we are looking for a fuck yes or fuck no. So if I have a prospect on a close call and I need to follow up with them, I am going to follow up until they literally tell me, Rafa, no. And it is the same thing with my interviews or applications. Until they tell me, we revoke you, we are not accepting you. I am going to continue following up until they do. And again, I could give you guys like some type of script for follow-up if you want it, but it is really simple. I just send an email the following day after an application or an interview and just say, hey, really looking forward to working with your team. I submitted my application. Let me know if you received it and what next steps look like. I am always assuming the next step, right? And if I do an interview, it is the same thing. I will tell them, hey, Daniel, it was lovely meeting with you yesterday. I did more research into the company. I am super convicted with you guys. Seriously, really excited to be working with your team here in the next week. I assume the close. All right, now you have an interview booked. How do we prepare for that actual interview? Now, what I will say with this is, remember, you usually have about the first 5 seconds of meeting somebody, let's say the first 30 seconds of meeting somebody to actually make an impression, right? And so the reason why I tell you this is you want to show up to your interview like you would any interview for a big job or something that you really want to land. Clean, professional, and presentable, right? So again, like I said earlier, you don't need a fancy background to close deals. I closed my first deals in my kitchen, sitting up against a blank wall with a light on my face. And that was enough. You could close deals with that because what matters more is what you say and not how you look. Now, you still want to be clean and presentable when you close deals and look like the best version of yourself. But having a background is a 1%er. It is only good to get a background as you start making money and you could afford it. But on an interview, it does matter because you only have the first 30 seconds to make an impression on the person who is interviewing you. And so you want to stack everything in your favor that you can. So if that means that you take the interview from your living room where the background looks nice and clean and aesthetic, then do that. Do and say what is needed to land that role. So your presentation does matter along with the words that you say. So again, before you take your interview, stand in the mirror, check out how you look on Zoom, position it well, and make sure you are showing up the best version of yourself. And maybe you may think like, Rafa, this seems like a lot like, the Loom video and I gotta find the background and look nice. But listen, if you find a sales role that helps you make life-changing money and be able to work from home and travel the world. Man, I have friends that are closers living in Colombia, in Thailand, in Brazil, and they completely changed their life by going this direction and getting into sales. And in that case, it becomes worth it to put a little bit of extra effort. So put some effort in like you care. Now with that, before your interview, make sure you do some research into the company beforehand. If you use my method to find a sales role, chances are you built up a list of 20 different roles and you probably forgot what each role has to offer and their VSL and their website and so forth. Now, the last thing you want to do when you get on an interview is pretty much not know what the hell it is that you are interviewing for. That is a complete red flag and you won't get hired right away. If you are showing signs of, them asking you, why is it that you want to work for your company? And you follow up with like, well, could you remind me what is it that you guys are selling? That is going to look horrible. So do your research before the interview and understand who it is and what you are selling. My best way to recommend for you to have a good understanding is to just watch the VSL, which is the video sales letter for the company that you are applying to. So let's say you are applying to Gym Launch. If we search up Gym Launch right now in their website, there is going to be a video at the very top. And that is called their VSL. Their VSL is a video that pre-sales clients to go ahead and book a call. It basically breaks down, this is who we are, this is what we will do, this is how we will help you. If you are interested, book that call. And so I always recommend the quickest way to get a good understanding of what a company is all about is to look at their website and just watch their VSL. It is 15 to 20 minutes long. It will give you a full A to Z input as if you were a client coming in ready to buy the thing. Now, on your interview, a lot of people have asked me before, like, what is it that sales managers look for in somebody that they hire? And I will tell you this, the number one thing that I look for and sales managers look for when they are hiring closers or setters is grit and confidence. Grit meaning, are you willing to work hard? And confidence meaning, are you confident in having a conversation with me today? Listen, if I have somebody who gets on an interview and they are stumbling all over the place and stuttering and we could clearly tell they are nervous, I get it. Sometimes you get nervous for an interview, but this is sales. Your job is to literally speak with people every single day. And so I need to see signs in that initial interview that you know how to clearly communicate and articulate yourself well, right? So get rid of the nerves before your actual interview. Do some push-ups, hit the gym, make sure you had a good day up until your interview so you show up the best version of yourself and you don't have all of those nerves. Now, another keynote that I would add on for you interviewing is not talking yourself out of the sale. Just like closing, just like filming a Loom video, saying less is more. And the last thing you want to do is over-explain yourself in an interview and create more questions that the sales manager didn't even have. And so a good example of that is them asking like, hey, why is it that you want to leave your current company? Over-explaining and oversharing is doing something like, well, things aren't really going right. The lead flow is going horrible. And I don't really get along with my sales manager, but I like the company. I've learned a lot and I close at 30%. But I just feel like the company is falling apart. And that is a great way of oversharing and creating more questions for the sales manager. They are probably going to follow up with something like, what is it that you don't like about your sales manager? Just to see if you talk shit on the company that you are working with. Instead, I am going to keep my answers short, sweet, and straight to the point. Not only does this not create more questions, but it frames you as being a hell of a lot more confident in what it is that you are saying. So if they ask me, why do you want to leave your past company? I am just going to say, actually, I don't, but I really like what you guys have going on. So I just wanted to see, what this opportunity looked like. Short, sweet, confident, straight to the point. Now, if you are brand new into sales, never lie and make up experience that you don't have on your interviews. Instead, be transparent, right? Once again, sales managers and everybody makes decisions emotionally. And so I would rather be straight up on an interview and be like, hey, listen, I know you are about to ask about my experience. I don't have a ton of sales experience, but listen, I have done a ton of research. I have been reading sales books, going through YouTube courses. I am a part of Cole Gordon's program, and I am super hungry, and I know I would crush it with your team, right? Rely on your hunger and your drive. You could get very far in an interview with sales just by showing how hungry you are and how much you believe in the company and the product that they are selling. Now, what I am about to cover right now are the questions that you need to ask in your interview, because that is extremely important. So if you have the grit and the determination and there is a team that you really want to get hired to, you will find a way to get in contact with the person in charge of hiring and get on their team. You just got to get creative with it. You need to apply, you need to book calls and search the whole team in charge up on LinkedIn. And then they start contacting everybody on the actual team. And then eventually someone says, hey, yeah, hell yeah, I will connect you with the sales manager right now. You seem really hungry, right? So like anything, whether it is sales or whether it is starting a business, you need to have hunger and drive behind you or else you won't succeed. Now remember, if you are an international high-ticket closer looking to improve your English to work in the US and make a shit ton of money, book a call with me using the link on the description or send me a DM on Instagram. I would love to help you out. Now let's jump into what questions do I ask in a high-ticket sales interview to determine if a role is a good fit for you or not. Okay, now let's be real here. In any industry, bad jobs do exist. There is such a thing as a role that you do not want to accept. And that is why I created this list of questions. And nobody has time, you guys, to go work for a company and spend 6, 7, 8 weeks working for them just to figure out, well, shit, this isn't what I expected. And now I need to go out and find a new role. But on top of that, I just wasted 6 to 8 weeks of my life working for this company. So once again, that is why I created these questions. And I can't stress enough how important it is to ask really good questions in an interview. So we will go ahead and jump into it. Starting off, what questions do I ask in an interview? Let's start with this, you guys. All of these questions you ask at the end of interview number 1. So for people who don't know, let's say you have a 30-minute interview scheduled for a sales role, whether it is setter or closer. The first 3/4 of the interview will be the sales manager or the person in charge of interviewing asking you questions. Hey, what is your sales experience, for example? Or, what do you like to do on your free time? What is your best character trait? What is your worst character trait? By the way, you guys, if it would be helpful for you to create a video on questions that sales managers ask on an interview, let me know. Send me a message, post it in the comments, and I could create that for you. But first, 3/4 of the interview will be the sales manager asking you questions. At the end of the interview is when the sales manager will say, beautiful, Rafa, I don't have any other questions to ask. Now let me know, man. Do you have any questions for me? And that is your chance to attack, or not attack, but go ahead and start asking these questions. And I will let you know a couple things. You have 3 goals with asking interview questions. Number 1 is to find out if the company is a good fit for you, right? That way you could get the adequate information that you need to make a decision before accepting the role for a new sales role. Now, number 2 is to show your expertise in your respective field, okay? People who know sales ask really good sales-related questions. And whether you are new to sales or whether you're a sales veteran, if you ask good questions on an interview, the sales manager will automatically know, damn, this guy knows his stuff and he is a good fit for the company, okay? In fact, I have done a lot of interviews as a closer looking for a role. I have also hosted a lot of interviews as a sales manager for closers and setters. Typically, the guys who ask me the best questions at the end of the interview are the people that I will bring onto the team, because it just checks off a box for me in my head that they know their shit, quite frankly. So that is goal number 2, is to show your expertise in your respective field. And goal number 3 is to come from a place of experience and curiosity and not neediness. You want to come from a place of, hey, I am here to vet you guys and make sure you are a good fit for me as much as you are here to see if I am a good fit for your company. And that is why you ask these questions. That is the 3 goals. Now, side note, you guys, do your own research on any company before you do the interview. You don't want to ask dumb questions, okay? If you get to the end of an interview and you ask, hey, could you give me a breakdown of what your company does and what you guys offer? As a sales manager, what I think is, God, man, you set up an interview, you booked a call, we held a 45-minute conversation, and you don't even know who we are and what we do. It is a bad look, okay? So you want to do all your research you can on a company before your first interview. Search their website, watch every video you can on their website about who they are and what they do. Watch their VSL, which is their video sales letter, and so forth. So get all that info you need. But once again, 3 goals with asking interview questions to find out if a company is a good fit for you, to show your expertise in your respective field, to come from a place of experience and curiosity. I created these questions by doing a shit ton of interviews. Not only that, but also giving it to people in our premium community, and then them coming back to me and saying, hey, I had an interview yesterday and the sales manager said, God, man, you asked really good questions. People don't usually ask this stuff. Starting off, you guys, with all these questions, you want to warm them up with easy ones, right? And the reason why you do that is because you don't want to come left field with a super hard-hitting question that they feel uncomfortable asking or answering. An example of that, if they say, awesome, Rafa, I don't have any other questions to ask. Do you have any questions for me? And first thing you ask is, how much money is your sales team making? It could be taken in the wrong manner, So you want to warm them up with easy questions, but this still gives you really good information on the company. So I will read them off to you. Number one is, how big is the sales team? How many closers do you have? How many setters do you have? And you want to make notes of it. I will even take notes throughout the interview. I will keep a piece of paper, hold a pen. Awesome. 5 closers, 7 setters. I will write that down. Question 2, what is the sales team daily meeting time and what is the training structure look like? Number 3, what does the setting process look like? This is a really good question to ask. Are you guys cold calling? Am I warm calling? Am I DM setting? What does that look like? Number 4 is, how do closers get leads? Is it through ads? Is it all organic? Do you guys have a webinar funnel? Is it a mixture of all 3? And so forth. Now, usually if you are setting, you don't always have to ask this question, but you can. Number 4 is, this is important as well. What does growth potential look like? Okay, so hey, if I am a setter and I want to become a closer, what does that growth potential look like? Number 4 is, what do you look for to promote an SDR to a closer or vice versa? What do you look for to promote a closer into a sales manager? Not only do you want to ask, hey, what does growth potential look like? You want to ask, what do you need to see from me? That way, I am ready to move up to that next role, right? Obviously, every single SDR in the world most times want to become a closer. Every single closer in the world wants to become a sales manager, and the sales manager knows that ahead of time. So they will have answers for you. So you want to ask, what does growth potential look like? And what do you look for to promote me into that next role? Now, after this is the good stuff. This is when you ask the harder hitting questions, quote unquote. But the way I labeled it are questions that influence my decision. So this is really important. All these questions, the answers that I get are the answers that I use to make a decision if I should move forward with the company or not. So number 1 is, what is your company's current monthly revenue? How much are you guys making a month? The reason why that is important, you guys, let's say you are looking for a closing role and they tell you, hey, we are making $500,000 per month and there are 4 closers on the team. You could do quick math to say, okay, the average closer is probably collecting $120,000 per month. If I am getting 10% of that, that means I am making $12K per month. Okay, so what does current monthly revenue look like? Number 2 is, what is the company's goal for monthly revenue over the coming months? Another way you could ask that question is, hey, what is your guys' goal monthly revenue at the end of the year? You want to work for a company that is shooting for the moon. Everyone wants to work with a company that is growing. So you could do the math, like how much the closers were making. If they tell you they have 4 closers and they're collecting $1 million a month, that's a green flag right there. 4 closers divided by $1 million a month. They were making good money, Number 3 is, what is the pay structure? Is this base or commission only, or is it a mixture of both? Do I get a base salary plus commission, or is it only commission? I will let you guys know. If I am looking for a closing role, I like the commission-only roles because I could bet on myself and I know I will make a lot more money. Now, if I am looking for a setting role, typically what I like is a small base with commission just to protect yourself as a setter. Another way that you could get paid is, hey, we pay you per set, plus we pay you commission per close as an SDR. But there is a lot of SDR rules that straight commission only set to close, meaning, hey, you get no base. Pretty much what happens if you set 10 leads and 5 of them close, you get paid X amount for those 5 close. And that is still a really good offer as long as you are working for a good company. And that is why you ask these questions, to make sure it is a good company. So what is the pay structure would be number 3. Number 4 is, what does the top setter make on the team or the top closer? Number 5, what does the bottom setter make on the team, or what does the bottom closer make on the team? Depends what you are interviewing for, right? So if I am interviewing for a setting role, I am asking, what does the top setter make and what does the bottom setter make? And vice versa. If I am doing the closing role, what does the top closer make and what does the bottom closer make? Now, my last question, this is a great question to ask sales managers. You will hit them hard with this one. And they will sit there and they will be like, damn, good question. Let me think. And that question is, what makes the top setter a higher performer compared to the bottom setter in your own words? So what is it? Is it the work ethic? Is it a skill set and so forth, And it just gives you good context of, hey, if I want to come on the closing team, if that is what I am interviewing for and I want to be the top performing closer, now you have the information you need that makes the top performer the best. Is it because he is working, 7 days a week? Is it because he has a lot higher of a skill set? And what does that look like? So these are the answers that will influence my decision. I want something that is making good monthly revenue. It depends. If they are doing $200,000 a month, but they have 10 closers, that is not something that is ideal. If they are doing $200,000 a month and they have 2 closers or 3 closers, that is a good role. Or vice versa, if they are doing $100,000 a month and they only have 1 closer, but they are looking to get a second and continue growing, it is still a good opportunity to take. It is doing that math in your head. So you want something with higher monthly revenue, typically over 150,000 is the goal. Now, as far as their goal with monthly revenue, you just want to make sure that they are serious about growing the company over the coming months. Because if the company grows, your income grows as a sales rep. Now, we touched on pay structure. And these are just really good questions to get a good idea of your OTE. If I know the top closer is making 30,000 and the bottom closer is making 10,000, I could safely say, hey, I am not the worst person, so I will come in and make 15 to 20,000 a month, and that is why I asked that question. Now, lastly, I always do this, and that is to get proof, okay? Unfortunately, same thing in any industry in the world. Some people lie about growth potential, the money that you can make, and so forth. So I will literally ask for proof of the income that the closers are making or the setters. Ask them to prove how much monthly revenue they are making. And I do always ask this, so I am kind of lying, but I ask it at different times. If I trust what they are saying. Sometimes I won't ask this at the end of the interview and I will wait till I get accepted onto the role. Then I will ask the question, But there has been times where I have taken an interview and I get to the very end. And I ask this question basically, hey, show me proof, show me pay stubs of the closers from the past 3 months. Here is the key. You have to ask that question logically and nicely. You need to give a reason why you're asking that question because it is, something that some people could see is intruding. At the end of the day, though, you guys, if you go through 2 interviews and they have you do a role play, they ask you all these questions, you spend all this time, you give to them, and they are not willing to give to you to show that they are a good fit for you, it is a red flag, So the way I ask this question is, lastly, I want to be upfront, man. Obviously, with any commission-based role, Rafa, there is a lot of risk to switch over to a new company. Listen, man, I am currently closing for X name. I am currently setting for X name. You could even say, hey, listen, man, I currently have a full-time job as a bartender, and this is how I pay my bills for my family. If I accept this role, man, I am going to leave my job and commit to you guys fully. I am all in. But the thing is, there is some risk with that, with being a commission-based role. Let's be real here. So, is it okay for you to show me proof of how much the setters have been making the past 3 months? You told me they are all making $7,000 a month. I trust you, man. But, just based off, wanting to protect myself and my family, is it okay for you to show me proof? If they don't want to show you proof, it is a red flag, And that is how you ask it nicely. I obviously made that a little bit wordy, but the way I would say it, you guys, is awesome, Daniel. I don't have many other questions, man. Last thing, bro, I really don't want you to take this the wrong way. Listen, with any commission-based role, there is a little bit of risk. You know that, man, I have a family, I have bills to pay. I am working a full-time job right now, but I really want to break into the online space. And another example, I am setting for X company right now, and it is a great company. And if I move to you guys, I am quitting that role and I am going all in. That is the type of person I am. But there is some risk with that. So are you open to showing me proof of what the setters have made the past 3 months? Just like that? They will show you pay stubs. They will show you leaderboards and so forth. And once again, you guys, you have to ask. It is part of closing the way you ask questions. You could say, hey, how much money do you make? Or you could say, hey man, just so I have an idea of, where you are at with things, and if real estate is something that you are ready to jump into right away, what are you working with? How much are you making right now? 2 totally different ways of asking questions. And it is the same thing with asking this last question for proof. You want to attach a reason why you are asking that question, and you want to say it nicely at the end of the day. Hey Rafa, listen man, with any commission-based role, there is some risk here. I am going to be leaving my current offer as a closer to commit to you guys. I am an all-in type of guy. I really do believe in the company and the vision that you guys have. But with that, like I said, it is commission-based. There is some risk with it. Are you open to show me pay stubs of what the closures have made the past 3 months and get them to show you those pay stubs? If they don't want to, it is a red flag. I am telling you. So that is it, you guys. Hopefully that was helpful for you. And finally, as we get towards the end of this free program, this free course, which I hate the sound of courses, so I will say program, let's dive into the keys that you need to follow to be an elite salesperson. Now, the first thing that I will say is any elite salesperson tracks their sales call metrics. If you don't know where you are going, you don't know what to get better at. And so key metrics that I always track as a closer in specific, but even a setter as well, is my close percent and my cash collected per call. And that is because I want to know at all times what is my percentage that I am closing at and how is it that I can improve. And number 2 is my cash collected per call. So let's figure out how to collect more cash on each call, right? And so we go over and we practice how to utilize financing options, the best way to pitch it, and so forth. And so it is extremely important as an elite sales rep to track your call metrics. That way, any given month, you could look back and say, did I improve this month? How was my close rate? What is my cash collected per call? And what is it that I could get better at? That way, I could make more money. Now, think of it like a famous athlete. I could bet you money if you look at whoever is the top basketball player in the space, they probably know their points per game, their averages, their field goal percentage, if you were to ask them the question right away. So if you want to be an elite top 1% sales rep, what makes you think that you don't need to do the same? Now, with that as well, not only is it important to track your metrics, but it is also important to really understand the goals that you have every single month on your sales goals. One exercise that I do with every salesperson I work with is reverse engineering their goals. We will take a look at number 1. How much is it that you want to be making every single month on your offer? And then we will reverse engineer their goals into how much cash do they need to be collecting every single day in order to reach that commission goal. So let's imagine a closer named Jimmy and he's on a $7,000 offer. Okay, man, listen, you get paid 10% commission of every single call that you take and every single deal that you close. Therefore, if you want to make $30,000 in commission, you need to collect $300,000 for the company in a given month. Now, next, let's go ahead and divide that by the total amount of work days. But hey, let's just break it up into a 5-day work week, for example's sake. So typically there are 23 work days in any given month. And if you divide $300,000 in cash collected by 23 work days, I believe it is like $13.5K that he needs to collect Monday through Friday every single day in order to make $30,000 in commission. And if we continue reverse engineering it, he is closing at a 30% close rate right now, which obviously we want to get that to 40%. But if he continues with that 30% close rate, that means he needs to take 8 live calls per day in order to close 2 deals that pay in full at $7,000 to go ahead and make $14,000 cash collected each day. And as long as he closes 2 deals every single day, Monday through Friday, he will hit his $30,000 in commission check. And so this goes back to a saying that I have heard from numerous people, but if you don't know where you want to go, then you are just walking in the dark. And that is a dangerous thing to have as a salesperson because sales is a monotonous sport. You know, it is something that you need to show up and do the same thing and the same kind of repetitive type of motions. It is like you are playing chess in your head every single day on every single call. And so you really want to understand where you are trying to end up at the end of the month. That way you never get in the point where you have a sales slump. And so I would encourage you as a salesperson, whether you're a setter or a closer, go ahead and reverse engineer your goals. Now think of another closer. Her name is Joanna. She is setting for a real estate offer and her goal is to make $12,000 per month in commission. Now she is pretty lucky. She is earning 10% in commission as a setter at a company that is making like $700,000 per month. Once again, it is like a real estate investing offer. And so we reverse engineered her goals all the way to the point of understanding how many sets per day do you need to make in order to close 1 deal per day, which is what she needs to do in order to hit $12,000 in commission. And so, you know, if you want to make $12,000 per month based off the numbers in your commission, you need to close 1 deal per day as a setter. Therefore, Joanna, all we need from you is to set 3 people every single day. That is it. If you set 3 people per day on your current metrics, you will make $12,000 this month. Is that possible for you to do? And she'd be like, hell yeah, 3 sets per day, that is not a lot. You could get that done in 3 hours. And now she fully understands the direction that she needs to take and she sees, the light at the end of the tunnel. Now, another piece that I will touch on with becoming an elite salesperson is understanding how to play the game at your company. There is a game that you need to play to be in people's favor and continue moving up at any company, whether it is sales or whether it is something different. At the end of the day, you want to position yourself as being irreplaceable. And listen, this is an unfortunate truth on any company, but a lot of times you could get a lot further based off the relationships that you have built rather than your performance. On the flip side, yes, your performance does matter as a salesperson, but you also want to do your best to build a relationship with the people in charge of promoting you because, again, people make decisions emotionally and then they compensate logically. If you are a setter and there is a closing position that opens up, your sales manager will probably be more willing to promote you if they like you and you have a good relationship. And then once they promote you, they will also compensate logically and say, listen, I really like Rafa, let's give him the shot. Plus, on top of that, he is doing really well as a setter. And so you need to play the game correctly. And the way that you do that is being active in Slack, shouting out other salespeople's wins when they close the deal, and congratulating them in your global Slack channel. Asking to do additional one-on-ones with your sales management team, or on top of that, taking initiative. One thing that I have learned the past couple of years is you want to assume the role that you want to gain. Meaning, if I want to become a sales manager at the company that I am working with, I am going to take on the responsibilities of a sales manager without them promoting me. That way, as soon as the position opens up, it is going to become a no-brainer for them. They are pretty much going to say like, hey, Rafa is pretty much already like doing extra meetings with all the closers and training them and going over objection handling and helping people improve. Might as well move him up as a sales manager. And so assume the role that you already want. You have to play the game at any company that you are with because it is unfortunate in life, and I am sure you have seen people like this, you will get a lot further with the relationships you build sometimes rather than your performance. You don't want to be the closer that just shuts up and closes. And you don't want to be the setter that just shuts up and sets because guess what? If you are, they will just keep you closing and keep you setting. And so you have to play the game. Now, when it comes to the daily inputs of elite sales reps, it revolves around three things. Number one is taking sales calls, obviously. And this means the calls that get automatically booked into your calendar. Number two is following up with leads, meaning any leads that you haven't closed that are still on the fence and wanting to make a decision, making sure we are consistent with our follow-up. And then number three is sourcing new leads. Now, what that looks like is, listen, fat, lazy salespeople, all they do is just wait for their next call to get booked into their calendar. Meaning, hey, if no calls get booked into the calendar or it is a slow day or a slow week, they are taking the day off and not doing shit. You don't want to be a fat, lazy salesperson. There are always inputs that you could be doing on a daily basis that is going to help you make more money and generate more sales. And so the two things that revolve around with that is number one, sticking with your follow-up, and number two is dialing and sourcing your own leads. Now, this doesn't mean that we got to cold call random people on Yelp, but hey, you probably have a CRM with thousands and thousands of leads where you could spend 30 or 45 minutes calling to set yourself appointments. Now, this isn't the most fun thing in the world. So I have developed a way where I could set appointments for myself and do it with the least amount of time and least amount of effort. And that is by dialing the no-show and canceled call lead lists. Chances are, if you are on a sales role, your CRM has a lead list of people who have no-showed their closing appointments, or maybe they just canceled their call and didn't show up in the first place. Those are always the highest intent leads to dial because most times when you dial them and you say, hey, you had an appointment, I don't know if it got canceled or what happened. Do you remember that? They say, oh yeah, dude, I just had something come up, but I am definitely still interested in speaking with you guys. And you could have a 5-minute conversation and reset the appointment to your own calendar. And so I can't tell you how much money I have made doing this just by whenever I have a no-show on my calendar or if I have an hour free time slot, me dialing my no-show and canceled call lead lists. So don't be a fat, lazy salesperson. At the end of the day, if you have a packed calendar of 12 calls, I could guarantee 20% of them aren't going to show up. If you have some brain space and brain power, how you're going to make more money is by sticking with your follow-up with old leads that you have spoken with. And number 2 is sourcing new leads for your calendar. Remember, as a closer, as a setter, as a salesperson, you eat what you kill. And so, once again, don't be a fat, lazy salesperson. Now, what I will wrap this up with is 2 things. Understanding when to leave your sales role. And number 2 is how to utilize your experience to land a better sales role in the future. Now, when it comes to leaving your sales role, I always look at 3 things. Am I learning? Am I earning? And is there an ability to grow? Meaning, if I have questions, if I should walk away from my sales role, the first thing that I will ask myself is there an ability to earn a good income? And when I look at that, I am not looking just at myself. I am looking at all the other salespeople on the team and asking myself, hey, are these salespeople earning? If you are on a team where nobody is making money at all, chances are your earning ability is now capped. And if my earning ability is capped, most times I am going to walk away from the sales role right away. Now, number 2 is learning, meaning is there an ability to continue learning? It is important as a salesperson that you are in a place that cultivates your growth. And so not only do you want to be earning the income that you want, and this doesn't mean maybe the 40, 50,000 per month, but at least earning a really good livable income. But on top of that, you want to be in a place where you are constantly learning and evolving and growing and getting better at sales, because sales is something that you will never fully master. There will always be something new that you could get better at. So is your sales team cultivating you? Are they doing call reviews? Are they doing mock calls? Are they teaching you how to get better with objection handling? If you feel like your learning ability is capped, chances are it is time to leave your role. And the way I look at this, by the way, is I look at these 3 things. The next one is ability to grow. If 2 of the boxes don't check off, I always leave the role, right? But the most important piece for me, especially with having bills to pay and whatnot, is my ability to earn. Now, the last piece is there an ability to grow into something bigger? But more importantly, am I cultivating and having these conversations with the management team? That way, they know that I want to grow. And it goes back to what I said earlier. If you are just the closer that shuts up and closes, guess what? No one is going to talk to you about growth opportunities, and they are not going to move you up to the next position. And it is the same thing as a setter. So ability to grow doesn't mean that your sales manager is calling you on a random Tuesday and saying, hey man, this is what your growth path looks like. It means you are asking these questions on one-on-one interviews, on team meetings, and letting the sales management team know, hey, I want to grow to a closer. What does my timeline look like? What do you want to see from me? Is there certain metrics that you want to hit? And so forth. If you are a setter and you want to go to a closer and you are sparking and having these conversations and they pretty much tell you, hey, I don't know when we will move you up to a closer. Our team is pretty capped out right now. Your ability to grow is capped and you need to find a new position. And it is the same thing if you are a closer that wants to grow to a sales manager. Cultivate and have those conversations. And if there is no ability to grow, then that box isn't checked off. So whenever I am thinking about leaving a sales role, I am looking at my ability to earn, my ability to learn, and my ability to grow. Now, finally is how do we leverage your sales role to land a bigger, better position? And that is pretty simple. Number 1 is you want to try your best to go on a top tier sales team right away. And that is why if you are new to sales, it is better to start off as a setter at a 10 out of 10 company rather than starting off as a closer at a horrible dog shit company. Now, once you land a good remote sales role, you are already a couple steps ahead of everybody else. And as you grow and apply to new roles, you will be able to just continue leveraging the experience that you have to land bigger, better opportunities. But in order to get there, you need to get your foot in the door on step 1. And so it is always best to go to the best company possible because it is only going to be easier to leverage that name to go onto a bigger, better opportunity. Now, everything that you need to land a good sales role, to become a top 1% closer, and to close deals right away on any sales role that you land has been handed to you on a silver platter with this video. And you could absolutely go implement this yourself. But if you want to get there as fast as possible so you could start earning big money with remote sales and start hitting $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 in commission, then check out the link in the description. Now remember, if you are an international high-ticket closer looking to improve your English to work in the US and make a shit ton of money, book a call with me using the link on the description or send me a DM on Instagram. I would love to help you out.